Hello and welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented light workers and innovative influencers of our time. And now that we've been on the air for about 6 months, we thought about circling back and checking in on some of our favorite guests. And tonight's guest has turned out to be one of my best light work buddies. Scott Cruz is a psychic medium that recognized his gifts as a young boy growing up in a house with poltergeist activities. He spent years denying his gift and at one point even tried to heal himself with religion, only to later realize that he actually has an amazing gift for connecting to spirit realms and relaying messages from dead people. His psychic talents also read situations in the living, such as health conditions, situations around love, and he has a nose for smelling something rotten hidden in under the nose. He made his celebrity debut on Bravo's Real Housewives of Orange County, where he famously called out a cast member for lying about a cancer diagnosis. Scott's magic can be witnessed every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on his YouTube channel, Scott Cruz PM, where he gives global reads and pulls cards for people who are watching and in the audience. By the way, you'll find me in the audience almost every Thursday night watching Scott. On top of these talents, Scott's also a talented musician, having recently released his latest single, Come Alive. Please send waves of love and gratitude to welcome our guest tonight, Step 13, Grandmaster Aquarius, Psychic Medium, Scott Cruz. Hey, buddy.
How's it going?
Good to
Good
see
evening,
you.
Christopher. Yeah, so I'm just kind of being very private right now, don't want to release too much information as far as Aquarius segment you had before having me on, So I'm wearing all black, androgynous, I don't want to reveal too much.
Yeah, I don't see any cleavage. Like, what's the matter? You're closing up for me, buddy.
I'm usually down to here, the shirt, so I
Usually
figured I just want to
is.
be more reserved and. But no,
So
everything's well. It's great to be back on.
it's nice to have you, dude. I guess since you went there, like, did you relate or reject any of my Aquarius predictions for closeness and intimacy?
No, it's actually, I'm always kind of open to begin with Grandmaster Aquarius, right? But,
Right.
I have noticed, the 2023 into 2024 has been really pushing me to, find those hidden sensitivities and, very open when it comes to anger and passion and getting things done. But I'm starting to realize, the sensitivity is kind of resurrecting when it comes to relationships and vulnerabilities in that sense and being a little needy or emotional. So, I've noticed more of that, the beginning of 2024. So other Aquarians, buckle up, embrace because it is somewhat very freeing with that. So yeah, I've definitely noticed a huge influx of that, so far this year.
I've seen you be more sentimental since I've known you, it
Yeah.
seems like. Yeah, there's been little moments there, little bromance moments.
hmm
Did you resonate at all with the world full of stupid people?
I mean, I came out saying that as a child, I came out of the womb like, who's this freaking doctor? Can he do it right? Don't slap me, So yeah, I mean,
That's
I've
funny.
kind of it's I've been saying that for a while, but then I started realizing like, that's not helping me because, that's also in a sense putting me in that category of I'm being stupid because I'm not allowing myself to appreciate whatever wisdom and in previous incarnations that I've evolved from. I'm not allowing myself to understand how much I've grown. Instead, I'm damning everybody else for their evolution. So I realized it's not serving me to say that any longer. And so I've actually been learning from those stupid people now and finding a lot of wisdom through those perspectives. And I started realizing, and this is for other Aquarians too, we may be enlightened to a certain degree, but we don't know it all. And it's good to learn from other signs and other perspectives because it gives us another characteristic to learn from. And so I've been starting to like, I was saying mingle more with those I thought were stupid and realizing they're teaching me a lot more of different dynamics I can be. And so I think that's another sensitivity that's kind of been evolving, in 2024 too, for me. Is like really embracing those different aspects and maybe lower levels and incarnations that are still very helpful and very much teachers still for me.
Mm. And thank you for being honest. That's one thing I love about Aquarius is they are so honest, and they actually also, they do call people stupid, but at the same time, or they have at the same time, it's because they actually see such a greater vision for humanity. It's not a petty thing. They're not petty.
No.
They're frustrated. They're
Yes.
frustrated that we're not doing what we could be doing. So
Right.
their heart is always in humanity. It's always in the world's greater good. So
100%.
that calling of stupid is really out of frustration of being stuck in traffic. Really, it's not. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. Cause like,
yeah,
why can't you see this? Like you're doing so much, you can do so much better for yourself. So yeah, it's very much that essence. I'm glad you clarified because yeah, it's not a pompous approach. It's like, I
no,
want better for you. Why are you being so, and so, and as a collective too, wanting to see the collective become more, collective and connected and so still very fragmented and separating. It's like, why are you so stupid and following these narratives? And so yeah, it is in that level of wanting more and the passion and knowing what the potentials we all have to evolve. So that's so true. I really, really dig the way you said that because I think a lot of people may think that we're pompous in a sense. And it's like, no, we care so much to where it hurts and it frustrates.
yeah, they take humanity very personally, which is what
Yeah.
I love about Aquariuses.
Yes.
And I've seen you shifting a lot. Just getting more comfortable in your own skin. I mean, your show's every Thursday. It's at 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern
Yeah.
on Thursday
I
nights.
had to think.
It's a new must see TV. I know that's backwards. We're going space timeline here.
You
It's right
missed one
here on
time.
his.
I cried on one of my lives. You missed it. It was a read of a client of mine that I've been working for a year, and she had such a spiritual breakthrough. And I was reading the situation. I actually broke down. I couldn't hold it back for like 15 minutes on the live. Just broke down
Really?
crying. Oh yeah.
What was I
Yeah. So I'm
drinking
like,
that
and
night?
afterwards I'm like, damn, Christopher wasn't there in that fucking live. He would have loved to see that part.
Actually,
But
Scott, let's roll that tape. No, I'm just kidding.
in slow motion. You know.
Yeah, no. We have a
What's
surprise
that
for you.
face?
We
What's
have
this
that
face
viewer
here?
right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Have you? So Pluto's gone to Aquarius. I just have to ask a fellow Aquarian, like, have you felt Pluto? Did you feel anything sort of nip you in the bud, in late January? I mean, literally it was on the first day of Aquarius that Pluto hit Aquarius.
Yeah, the difference that I felt was, it was more like the inner rebirth because I've been so focused on the collective and so focused on, even the individuals that I work with and really wanting to be their cheerleader. And I had started to realize I haven't been doing that cheerleading for myself. And so I really started setting more boundaries, late January, and into, the February, now almost ready in March already. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I've been more of my own cheerleader and setting boundaries. And I think that's been kind of a collective with all signs actually setting boundaries. I've been noticing. But for me as Aquarius, Virgo rising, I've been really saying that, I have to also set boundaries with my vulnerability and not allowing people to, kind of allow me to feel bad for them. And so where I just, deprive myself. So,
Mm.
yeah, that's been a huge shift for me of saying like, no, this is not cool. And so instead of just walking away or shutting it down or just dealing with it, I've been very more vocal about expressing that. And I've been getting great responses in return. And, communication with opposing signs have been like masterful. So huge shift in that regard of like really kind of building myself and understanding prosperity and self-worth in that regard and not putting that last. So you kind of nailed it you did nail it in the Aquarius segment for sure when it comes to accepting that prosperity because we're so busy doing that we forgot, oh, wait a minute, I got to kind of fill my own tank now. And so I definitely been feeling that. And I know a lot of the Aquarius friends have been feeling that too.
Oh yeah, you have Aquarius friends. That's cool.
Yeah. 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 I
Well,
do. Isn't
you
that
don't see
surprising?
like you see like packs of Aries or packs of Sagittarius. You don't usually see packs of Aquas. Usually it's like an Aqua in like a Statue of Liberty among a bunch of people. So,
Right. A bunch of people. Yeah. I have a few, my sister's Aquarius,
oh,
and, my partner's Aquarius. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of different, I would say connections with Aquarians, which has been surprising because I usually don't get along that well with Aquarians. They usually bore me. There's no stimulation. So, so not funny. And so, yeah, I'm usually gravitated to like Cancers, Geminis,
mm,
Pisces, is where I usually gravitate to. And surprisingly, sometimes Leos when I want a crazy merry-go-round, Mr. Toad's ride. Let's dive a little to Leo for a minute. More Leo men do that, though. But, so yeah.
Leo men are fun. So how are you feeling about, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We'll use that adjective. This year in 2024, you first of all, you do your show. Let's go background a little bit back.
Sure.
Tell us just because there's people here who've never met you before.
Sure.
Just one more time, tell us a story. Like, you grew up aware of your abilities. At what
Yeah.
age did you come to realize that you had this ability?
Yeah. Another great ability I've learned in 24 is to summarize. So I'm good task me right now. I can summarize. So yeah, I grew up
That is a
aware
good feature.
Right, it's an amazing feature, especially for me who talks too much. Yeah, I grew up really tapping into that, the metaphysical space. I grew up with a poltergeist in the home, and it literally was, I would say, a parallel to the Poltergeist movie, to where actually the woman who lived in the home previously died in the house, and then of course
Oh,
that we found out the home later was built on an Indian burial ground, and so we had so
wow.
much activity, and of course me having abilities amplifies that, but usually poltergeists are created by those who have abilities and gone through trauma. And I was going through some trauma, some physical abuse at that
Mm,
time. And so, unbeknownst to my parents, by the way, my parents did not know.
mm,
And so there was a lot of that going on. And so I was seeing apparitions, things were moving in the home. I also was being scratched and bruised. And, as I later got on my
wow.
later years, then we, went to the Christian church. And so then I experienced conversion therapy, exorcisms, possessions. So I experienced all that kind of like inhabiting of spirituality at a very young age to where, I was, writing on the religion for a while and practicing the Christianity. And then I realized it was very nuts. It was suffocating to my intellect and spiritual expansion, not to discount it, but I
No.
had to move on, especially after the conversion therapy and the exorcism possessions. It was really cumbersome growing up to where, I had suicide ideation and experienced more
Wow.
sexual abuse. And so it was very, 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 very heavy. And
Mm,
so then as I moved forward, I didn't want anything to do with spirituality, nothing to do with God. I didn't want any of it because I realized it was just, negative in a sense.
yeah.
And so I moved forward as kind of an atheist, felt stupid as hell. And even though I
Mm,
tried, I didn't want to believe in it. It basically was me pushing it aside. And as I developed in my 20s, I started having past life regressions come to me randomly and vividly and confirmed with multiple, I would say, connections of the future of other people coming to me with those same, I would say, regressions that I didn't tell them. And so
oh, wow.
then I started becoming more spiritual, more Buddhist, more like into Buddhism. And then I went into Scientology,
Wow.
because that's a cult, and but that got me into more ETs, and then I became more spiritual, and then I started to accept it because at some point I'm like, I realized I was killing a part of myself. I was manifesting a shadow demon that was following me because it was the fear and depression, and so I had this heaviness. So once I accepted that, and I went through agoraphobia because I had 2 years of massive anxiety. I couldn't leave my house because I was suppressing that.
Wow.
So, yeah, I couldn't go into crowds, and it was very heavy. And so, and the agoraphobia was extremely real, especially as an Aquarius. You can easily fall into that.
Yeah.
So, and so then I had to overcome that. So I started accepting that, and that's when, of course, I was always a medium and receiving information from spirit before, but it was to the point where I couldn't like shut it off. It was everywhere I was going, I had to deliver a message, and so decided to accept it and practice it secretly on the side, and then of course life took me from there. Spirit's like, okay, well, you want to, now that you're accepting it, let's take you forward and let's really do something with it. So, and I was buried in studying quantum physics, quantum mechanics, psychology, trauma healing, all that stuff. I was always processing and working through myself through my own healing, and also understanding how the brain works, how the mind works in conjunction to the soul. So I really dived in education and experience for a couple decades, before I started actually doing readings professionally. And once I did, I still continued my learning curve, and so it's been wonderful from there. And so I've been doing readings professionally for 20 years, 12, 13 years. Was of course reading before that, but Spirit has definitely shown me, even through the change of ideologies, that it is all about evolution and growth. Not about getting what we want. Getting what we want is results of our growth and evolution.
Yeah.
And so the more we allow ourselves to grow and evolve, we get more of what we want. So that was a big lesson I've learned. And following your passion, following your soul purpose is where everything just unfolds, and the synchronicity is magical in life. And so that's what I teach now, and that's how I help guide my clients into making that realization for themselves. So hopefully I summarized that well enough.
That was amazing. I'm ready for a cigarette. I don't even smoke. So, how did you make the leap from all that to getting paid as a reader and ending up on a Bravo show? Like, what was that leap going from
Well, it's
novice or,
right,
something on the side to something paid? Because I think there's a lot of
right,
people who have the gift and are
right.
afraid to make that leap.
Well, yeah, I was doing it, like I said, secretly for a while. I was doing it like parties and stuff like that on the side and stuff. So I was reading people for a while and also had that experience for a while growing up. So I was very confident with it. So, but when I, started to like, be okay with it going public. Spirit said create a Facebook page for doing readings and just do free readings and get feedback. I'm like, okay. And so I created a page and
Oh,
started saying, hey, just testing my abilities, for in a session type format, and whoever wants a free reading, let me know, and in exchange for a review. And so I started doing that, and people are just leaving amazing, responses. Not
mm,
to brag or anything, but and so then eventually I met a gentleman who I read it connected with his mom, and he was blown away. And he says, I have a celebrity I need you to read. And I immediately said, is she going through a custody battle? Because I didn't know who he was talking about. He's like, yes, because I felt custody battle. And then so that's where he connected
wow.
me with Tamara Judge from the Housewives. And then I read her. She was very blown away about things. I mean, to a point, she told me her son was having a boy. I'm like, nope, it's having a girl. She's like, but the doctor said it's gonna be a boy. I said, nope, it's gonna be a girl. And so she's like, and she's like, I don't know about this one until it happened and he had a girl. So,
Huh.
so then she became very much a very strong believer and advocate. And then she invited me on the show, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to make this public. I don't want that scrutiny because I still
Right.
have that stigma. Like, I have to prove it to people. Like, I have to be very scientific, and I'm very, with my Virgo rising, analytical. So, yeah, I was resistant with that. I didn't want to be a spectacle. And especially, what if I go on the show and they put that little ding, 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 ding music underneath you and make us complete, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, Jesus. So I just, but my guides are like, you got to do this. And like, I felt a huge push. And so, yeah. And then I just pushed, went on. Of course, the questions were not scripted by any means. And I was, when I went and did my thing and made the predictions. And I had so much anxiety afterwards. Like, what the hell did I just do? Like, I felt possessed in that moment. And
Yeah.
so, and I had so much anxiety, like I couldn't sleep for weeks. I'm like, oh God, I just put my reputation on the line. What am I doing here? And so, but of course, Spirit calmed me down. And I think it was like a month after that, it was confirmed that, the guy was faking the cancer and faked the documents at the City of Hope. And that all came out of the news. And
Yeah.
so everyone's like, oh my God, you're vindicated. And so I was like, "Phew, of course, I knew it, but I was like, it's good that it manifested because my brain was like, what if this, what if that, the
Yeah.
Virgo.
There's a huge
So
risk. I
yeah,
mean, and for
yeah.
those who haven't seen the episode, basically a character on the show had told one of the women, the housewives, that he had cancer, but he was lying about the cancer. And all the housewives were sort of huddling around in a sympathetic way to they had cancer. And Scott, in his brazen Aquarius sigh, was just like, I don't think he has cancer.
I don't see it.
Which is a really like, oh my God, like that was brave because A, it's cancer. So everyone's always, don't upset the person who's sick.
I know.
And you're on national television, there's cameras around you. And so what goes on inside yourself? Because I've had those moments in readings too,
Right.
where the client is just insistent and my guides inside are like, nope,
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Like there's what kind of signal are you getting on the inside when you're in that sort of position where the client is just calling you wrong, but you're feeling that it's right?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have opposition then because no one knew. No one was speculating at that time.
That's
Like, it
true.
wasn't even a part of the storyline. So at that time, I was like, oh God, here we go. But then it's like I felt the push. It's like I got to do this. So I kind of like even took a step back and kind of closed my eyes to get some sort of a read on that. And I just saw deception. I'm like, no, because at the time I just lost a best friend. It was like a brother to me, of brain cancer. And so I was still sensitive to that. And my uncle was going through cancer at that time. My sister was going through breast cancer at that time. I believe it was around that time, but I was just experiencing a lot of that. So the deception aggravated me. And I'm like, this needs to come
Mm,
out. Like I don't like this. Stop. Sorry, my dogs. I don't like the exploitation of that. And so that's what kind of made me, I'd say, I don't see it. It's not there. And so they cut it short. I did say I saw something on the nose at some point, but nothing more. And it came out, I think, a year after that he did have cancer on the nose, like a couple years prior, actually. But that was it. So yeah, I saw that it was more a feeling. I saw deception, but I felt like this is not true. I didn't feel a resonation of this individual in cancer did not match to me. And so sometimes I'll just get I think a lot of times lately, Christopher, like my senses and those who don't know who are psychic, especially mediums, we're either clairvoyant, we're visual, clairaudient, audio, clairsentient, we feel it, or claircognizance that we just know it. I have been just more claircognizant the more I've been developing my ability. I just know. It's just like, nope, like as if I know them. And so it kind of came
mm,
out that way. I just knew it wasn't so.
mm. Yeah, and thank you for sharing that too, because a lot of people doubt those instincts.
Yeah.
And did you Was there an aha moment in your own awakening that you knew you were right and you decided to go ahead and hedge the bet in that direction? Was there that moment in your life?
I always knew I was right. That's the thing, but I just didn't trust it. And like most of us, right? I'm sure even you, right? You know it's there. You know the feeling's right. It's like I can't rely on that because it's not logical or it's not tangible enough. And so we go that direction, and then doing, we get slapped in the face. Then that music is played under your foolish behavior because you didn't follow your intuition. So yeah, it took a lot of that in my life to say, well, screw this. I'm tired of it. Like I'm tired of being wrong, not trusting my intuition. That now is just like I just don't question it anymore. And I've said I'm going to completely surrender to this and give in. I want this ability to grow. I want this ability to be a power that I have that can either help me or, and most importantly, help everybody else. And so, and I also started feeling, passion for the space itself. I'm like, we have some quacky fucking people that are just representing the spiritual communities. Like, people big ass hair. All these personalities. They're just not relatable. They're either hyper queeny, hyper, Long Islandy, or just old. And so, I
I knew
mean,
you were
it's
talking about Long Island psychic
yeah.
or
I mean,
whatever. Yeah, yeah.
I did her once for Halloween. I dressed up as her. It was hilarious.
Oh,
I
really?
love
That's
her,
so
by the way.
funny. We have
Yeah,
those pictures now. No, I'm
yeah.
kidding.
Here's him getting dressed into the costume. Uh, so I see spirits everywhere. There's grandmothers everywhere. So
Do you think
I gotta
she's
get.
accurate? I've never watched her. Is she? I'm
My
not
vibe
putting on the
says
real down.
she's real. Yeah, my vibe says she's the real deal. It's
Totally real.
sensationalist for television, but she's a true spirit. I love her energy. I think she's really true and being herself. And for television, they always fluff things up, but she's a true spirit. I think she's wonderful, wonderful. I get nothing but great energy from her.
Yeah.
But it's to me, it's what we have as representations. I mean, people love
Right.
her,
Right.
but it's still like they're off, right? And so I just think we need people. I want to stand up for our space where you can curse, you can lay back, you can be yourself, you can dance, you can have a drink now and still be spiritual. You can still be down to earth and be spiritual. You don't have to be Mother Teresa or some sort of, unique unicorn to be spiritual. And so I start saying, I want people to understand how casual spirituality really is. And matter of fact, being more settled in your skin is what spirituality is all about. So that's what another drive and push, that I wanted to bring to people is that representation and a relatability.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not gonna pretend I don't say the F bomb or we all do, and so it's part of life. We're human. The point is, are you evolving? Are you becoming better at your communication? Do you have better finesse in your life? And so that's the key. And so that was
Yeah.
another huge push for me is to stand up for the space, the realm of spirituality.
I understand what you mean too. I mean, there's a extremely flamboyant astrologer in Mexico. He's passed on now, but he's super Liberace meets astrology.
Right.
And I kind of feel like those early icons became icons because they were that way in public already. Like
Already.
they had no reservation about just being who they are
Right.
completely. So they were the first ones to say, yes, I'm psychic and all this other stuff.
Right.
But they were eccentric in every other way too. So they really did trailblaze.
Sure.
But I do love that about your work is you're kind of normalizing it in the sense of, very relatable. Also, you're so open about your life and stuff. So
Right.
one thing I find watching, and it's funny to watch Scott work too, because he works every Thursday night pulling the cards. And you see Scott live, so you don't have chance to cover up anything or whatever. You can
Right.
see the way your brain works, and he's also very good with medical stuff. Actually,
Yeah.
I've noticed, like, yeah. And how's that? That just comes to you
Yeah,
in
I mean,
pictures, or
like again, I pull cards like I just like segment. I'm not a tarot reader. Cards are like for collective stuff where people just want a card pull, but I don't really need them. I'm a psychic medium, so I can walk in a bar and read you. But with medical stuff, because I have so much knowledge and passion about that, a huge passion of mine is to bring health education to the planet, and based on my experience of going through my health journey and being around nutritionists growing up, and working for my parents' health food store and always hearing about organic this and pesticides that, and
oh,
so I was raised in a very health conscious environment. And so, and I'm very passionate about that because I see so many people, especially within my readings, being misled and then coming back years later saying, I trusted my doctor, but now I've been misdiagnosed. Now I have this issue, that issue, or I've been misdiagnosed, or this medication has caused more problems. And they don't have a clearer picture of nutrition. And so I always say, and I'm not anti-Western medicine at all. I think a combination of both is wonderful, but we have to be more balanced on that and more conscious of just when we go to a doctor, we're going to get a prescription. We're not going to get a diagnosis of nutrition and a complete understanding of our body. That's our jobs. So when you
yeah,
understand the doctors are doing their job to prescribe you, but you have to do your job and understand what's going on with you and take the actions that you need to do to take care of yourself. So I'm very passionate about that. So when I read, I definitely take the time to see deficiencies. And I always tell my clients, get that, validated by a health professional. Go to your doctor and get my reads, validated. Or sometimes they come and I validate the reads they had before, from a doctor. So, and letting them know what I know based on my education and experience of how to do so. And my experience comes from my parents. Dad is 72, never been on one medication in his life. Mom is
Whoa.
65, 66, never been on one medication in her life. And they're both two people always hiking up the mountain every day and
Oh,
very vital and active. No medications ever in their lives and never sick.
and they're in your chats almost every Thursday too.
And
Your whole
supportive,
family.
yes.
Yeah, they're very loving, good
Yeah,
parents. I want to
yes,
meet them one day. I think it'd be
yes.
awesome.
You will, you will.
Okay, that'd be awesome. So tell me what you're seeing at let's pivot now to sort of like what you've been seeing. Are you seeing any trends so far in 2024? We're now 3 months in. You're reading people all the time. You read full
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Can
Yeah.
you speak to any sort of trends that you're seeing happening right now for
Yes.
people?
Yes. I've been seeing a lot of creativity manifest from a lot of people.
Hmm.
From a lot of people who've been suppressing it, or people who are just like completing a cycle. Because I really feel like it's been a new paradigm shift for a lot of people in different signs. But for me, I've been gravitating, or at least attracting a lot of visually creative people. Like I've been meeting so many people where I'm like, you're going to be doing just happened last night. You're going to be doing, creating changing spaces and doing like interior design work. And she's never done it before. It's like, I was thinking about doing that feng shui, changing energy stuff. I'm like, I've been getting a lot of people, and I think what people need now collectively is understanding their home space and
Yeah.
understanding how to create their home base. And I think that that's where things start is at the home. So I'm seeing a lot of light workers being called to help people organize and get their home spaces in the right energy modality. So that's a
Hmm.
trend I've been seeing too. Excuse me, I'm doing sinuses, so bear with me. And so I've been seeing that trend. I've been seeing a trend of people really kind of shifting out of outdated relationships. So that's been kind of
Yeah.
across the board. I'm talking
Okay.
about long-term relationships. I've been processing a lot of divorces the past, I would say, 3 to 6 months.
Wow.
Major divorces, of long-term divorces. And I've been seeing a lot of trends of people going from conditional lives to more spiritual lives. I've been seeing a major shifts like that, and seeing them process that in 2023 and helping them be prepared for 2024. Because I say, as we all been saying, 2024 has a lot of movement with it, associated with it, and a lot of great, I say, vortices of moments you can take advantage of energetically to push you forward and to manifest finally. So I think 2024 is going to be a very tangible year, things actually coming into tangible fruition. 2023 was movement on the subconscious level for me, where people were coming to the realization and movement emotionally. And so now, and I always caution people, not everybody's doing the work. Right. So a lot of
Yeah.
people are not doing the work or being resistant. So what's going to happen with them in 2024 is they're going to feel like they're in a tornado, right? Being
Hmm.
spun around, like not know what's happening, and just things are changing, but it's in their favor, but they're so detached from that. They're changing, like I would say, in real time. So they don't really have the conscious awareness of what's happening, but it's changing them, but it's going to be throwing them out of whack. So I see a lot of those trends of people awakening. And another trend I've been seeing too is people using their voices a lot more.
Hmm.
You know,
People who are quiet, or are they speaking up for the first time? Are they
both.
discovering they have a voice? Okay.
Both who be people who suppressed it, also people who have had it but never used it, or people who haven't used it effectively. And another trend, it's a lot of trends actually, Christopher. I've been seeing major health realizations between the cusp of this year and last year. I've been seeing a major people making the realizations of health.
Like health, what? Like I've been living poorly, or I'm in denial
Poorly,
about
the
my weight
older
problem,
patterns
or
aren't working. I'm starting to think outside of box of alternate medicine. I
hmm.
start seeing people leaving. I've had a lot of, even I've had a couple psychotherapists leaving to do more spiritual healing. I've
I'm
had,
seeing that too.
yeah, a lot of, clients who are working even in the medical space, like they're starting their own practices in holistic healing too, but blending the two. So I've
Hmm.
seen a lot of that blending too, and also people realizing that I need something else. So it's been a huge influx in so many different paradigms and dynamics in that way. So it's a major shift, actually, Christopher. So it's not just one thing. I think a lot of the dynamics are expanding massively. with health, relationships, creative expression, independence. All these different dynamics have been fully emerging and blossoming. I always say 2024 is the beginning of this humanitarian era to where it will be more collective. And so, what better way for it to be collective than to every dynamic to be strong and expressive, right? So,
Yeah.
it's a starting point of a wonderful era for me, in my perspective.
And I'll just affirm here, since we're doing a bit of a tag team, the South Node in Libra does say that it is time for relationships to change. So I'm seeing the same thing for divorces. We'll talk about that for this summer as well. That's kind of a lead into our topic for tonight. I have at least 3 medical doctor clients, like, who are changing their practice,
Yeah.
leaving their practice,
Yep.
and bringing in spirituality and other things into their practice.
Yeah.
Most of my coaching with them is just them feeling like the oddball, sort of
Right.
like how you felt in the beginning of your career with admitting that you were psychic.
Right.
They're kind of coming out of their closet about the fact that they're spiritual, in their medical community. So
Right.
I'm seeing a fraction of that happening. It's an 8-year numerologically. So, the last time was 2015 was an 8-year. So
Mm.
to me, in 8 years, that's when you finally make up your mind and decide and commit.
Right.
And so people go back and forth. I agree. 2023 was like, it was almost like you can feel something bubbling up, but nothing
Right.
really surfaced.
Right.
Like you knew it was coming, but you didn't quite know for sure if it was.
Right.
And it feels like so far in this year, yes. I mean, it's like, yes, it's definitely going to happen. It's a definite. So a lot of yeses where there were maybes before
Right.
is something I'm seeing. Like,
100%.
and it's interesting on the relationship front too. So the astrology says, and this is a lead into tonight's topic, first of all, Saturn's in Pisces. So the astrology says we're coming to the end of a karmic pattern with
Mm.
ourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Makes
we
sense.
finally have figured out the big questions with ourselves. I'm not a loser. I am
Right.
worth it. I should speak up. And I am seeing the quiet ones speaking up too, by the way. I've
Yes.
been,
Yep.
I've been personally predicting that, like, George Washington was always the quiet one in the room in the
Right.
revolution,
Right.
to where it was like E.F. Hutton. They're probably like, well, what does George think?
Right.
Those quiet people, you can't trust them. I always say
Right.
that. Like,
Exactly. They're the ones you want to be fearful of. Right. Exactly. The quiet ones, you got to be careful.
and they are, and that tells you. And so, when things look like they're going to not work out, like, I mean, the whole world looks like it could
Right.
could veer off the road at any moment and go off the
Right.
cliff. You never anticipated that quiet one to speak up. You never anticipated the one to leave the abusive husband or the
Right.
abusive wife. You did.
Right.
It's what's happening is those things where we said never, never say never,
Right.
because it's happening, and that sort of thing.
Yes.
But from a relationship perspective, let's go ahead and segue to tonight's topic. Relationship changes in the air big time.
100%.
Saturn in Pisces says that we're done with our karma with ourselves. And most of us chose our partners based on our own inadequacies,
Right.
like,
Or
or
trauma
we felt,
bonding. Or trauma bonding. A lot of
you're
people have been
right.
trauma bonding too.
Yeah. Or projecting or
Right.
codependent, or I'll fix you instead of look at my problems,
Right.
the narcissist. I mean, that's like a buzzword I'm tired of.
I
Are
know, very
you?
sensationalized. I hate using it too. I'm like, oh my God, I sound like a TikToker, So
It's
yeah,
become popular. But it's funny.
it
I have
needs
a
to be
theory.
though.
In the old days, only men like Napoleon could be narcissists. This is what I tell my
Mhm.
clients. Only the really powerful men could be narcissists.
Right.
And what's happened is like the modern age has allowed everyone
Everybody to
to
be
be.
narcissist. Why?
So it's
Because all we have to do is push. I'm powerful. I'm powerful. Just point a key on the keyboard, and we're powerful now. So yeah, it's something giving people a false sense of confidence. That's for sure.
That's
Yeah.
true. Well, it was something that had to be like bled out, like you get
Right.
the air out of a pipe, like society
Yeah,
had to bleed out. But,
I
I
agree.
just want to say for a record, I don't think narcissist is going to be, I think it's going to be a tired word another year and a half. Like
Right.
we've burned through it now. All the narcissists have been called out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
All
and I think like a lot of saturation, it gets annoying, but it's so necessary to like say it's almost like spirit saying, "Come on, hurry up, get the point, get the point." Here's it saturating your face. So there's a lot of good to that because now instead of hearing it and instead of mingling with it, it's been exposed. Now we can move on quicker. So I think it was a good thing. As irritating as it could be, it's like we can finally move on quicker. With all that saturation.
it had to happen, but it's not the new normal. It's actually
Right.
the end of the old normal that was never
Exactly.
talked about.
Exactly.
So I think it's so people were all hooking up based on past lives.
Right.
They're hooking up based on their wounds, on their traumas, as you
Right.
say. Saturn has officially said, okay, that's it. With Neptune in the high degrees of Pisces and Saturn in the low, it
Yep.
means that the whole we've raised the bar
Right.
basically of all everything. So
Right.
as a result, and the South Node's in Libra for the first time since 2005. And when the South Node's in Libra, that's usually when we leave our relationships
Mm,
that are no longer working. And the North Node in Aries, we sort of go out hunting and gathering for the next best thing.
right.
So this is the setup to what I'm calling the summer of love. And what's going to happen is Jupiter is going to move into Gemini, which is not necessarily romantic,
Right.
in the sense of, violins and roses, to the,
Captivating. It's a captivating energy. It's kind of like appealing. It's alluring to me. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
well, oh, totally. Well, it's like you find your bestie. So Jupiter
Right.
and Gemini is like, I found my bestie.
Right.
I found the person I can tell everything to. I found the person
Right.
who gets me.
Right.
We talked until 5 a.m.
Right.
That's Jupiter and Gemini. So
Right.
it's like normally Jupiter and Gemini is just like an explosion of like internet activity and chat rooms and like people
Yeah.
just loud walla walla going on in public places. But now I think with Jupiter and Gemini, because we've overcome the narcissist thing, because
Right.
we had the South Node in Libra, because we have finished our karma, and most light workers all want great love and haven't found it. Like I have my entire Rolodex of clients are all amazing women who want love and haven't gotten it yet. So like there's this huge demand.
Yes.
And they're, by the way, not all men are narcissists, and there will be
Right.
some recovering ones,
Right.
but so I feel, and this comes from
Or
a
or and
second
to,
house
I
too.
wouldn't dovetail from that for a second too. A lot of people think because they ghosted, then they're narcissists. I'm like, sometimes the person just doesn't get the point, so there's no choice to ghost, right? So sometimes you tell someone 3 or 4 times, and then the person doesn't get it, they keep continuing. So the ghoster disconnects, like he's a narcissist. Like, no, you just don't get it. So there's a lot of those circumstances too. I had to call certain people out and say, you're not dealing with a narcissist. You're pushing and being obsessive, and that's the only way for them for you to get it is to shut down communication. So we also have to be very clear about that, and I have to be very vocal about that too, because a lot of times people think they're narcissists, but we need to be objective. Are we pushing too much? We not getting it? We being too compulsive and too, because a lot of times they're being narcissists by thinking they need to want me instead of, so a lot of times I've seen
Right,
that
reverse
flipping of that.
narcissism.
Yeah, it's like they're not responding to me. Like, that's very narcissistic of you to say that. So
There's
uh,
a
so
yeah.
there's been a lot of that realization of the over projection of narcissism is actually the mirror looking back. So,
I've
I just
seen
had to
that
add that.
too. I've seen those
Yeah.
TikTok videos where like he's a narcissist that doesn't get it and he needs to know. And I'm like, I think I'm looking at a narcissist right now, calling narcissist black, or calling the kettle black. Like I've seen that.
Right.
Yeah. It takes one to get one,
Exactly. I mean, Jesus, it's like, don't you know I'm the best thing here and I'm more important than anything else? Like, yeah, that's a little, yeah.
And he's the narcissist or
Right.
she's the narcissist. Yeah.
You're
And
right
there are
about
female
something.
narcissists.
Yeah.
There are, I don't know what there's a word for it. It's not Karen, but there are female versions of it too. It's not all men. But so I had this vision. This all came up for this idea because I had this vision at one point. Usually it's in a reading. I get visions about other stuff. I don't know about you, where I saw like people all making out with bombs dropping, which was my guides being funny. They're funny. My
Yes.
guides are
Yeah.
always funny to me. They
Mine
take
are
it to a
too.
cartoon level,
Yeah.
which told me this is like there's going to be this balance this summer where the world is absolutely falling apart, but people are falling in love. So no
You
one's going
know,
to matter.
that's so true that you said that, because I feel like, we're entering like a hippie phase. I've been saying for some time. Like, I think it's gonna be like a hippie phase, like, make love, not war. So I feel like we're coming into that I would say history repeats itself. So I kind of feel like we're in that 70s hippie era or get emerging into. So I agree.
Mm,
That makes complete sense to me. Actually, it's very quite literal if you think about it, love, not war. So I think your
yeah.
your guides are spot on that.
Yeah, it feels like it. So the idea of this show, tag teaming, is for us to go around through all 12 signs and us just kind of each of the sign kind of evaluate where their summer love is going to play out, like
Okay.
and whatnot. And maybe a couple of
Juicy.
lines. Yeah. And of course, we're bringing in what we see in our clients and our readings and our comments and everything else
Right.
too. So you're getting some super perspectives here with Scott the psychic um, medium, and me, the astrologer. So let's just go down the line. Let's start with Aries. And I'll just say, just like lay down like a pipe for the story at large. Like Aries actually have the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. So Aries and Libras are the most going through literal relationship change now.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I think Aries have a whole new career. They used to be the brutal, warriors on the planet. I would say
Right.
they were they were vicious in the age of Aries, they were heroes in the age of Pisces, and
Right.
now they're out of work.
Right.
So
I've
they're
been
at this
seeing that,
place,
a lot of
they're
that.
trying to find themselves now. But I feel like so for Summer of Love this summer, I feel like Aries will be out doing something very Aries macho-esque, like, and love will just fall in their lap out of nowhere, like unexpected. Is
Yeah.
sort of what I feel for Aries. What are you picking up on Aries
Yeah,
and what they're
you
going
know,
through?
for those who are not in relationships, I think it's gonna smack them in the face. So like similar to you, almost sound like I just met this amazing person. Like how this it's gonna come out of nowhere. I feel like those who are single looking for love, those who are in relationships are gonna really find a new, I would say, spin to their love life. And I think if they're having a very, I would say, lackluster intimacy with their partners, that's gonna spice them up this summer. I feel like too. So a new perspective on sexuality and intimacy. And those who are maybe not looking for love, I find that you're going to find a new love interest as far as I see a lot of traveling. And so even there might be some who are maybe wanting to be photographers that might come about with them. So I see a lot of travel and love for the world when it comes to Aries in the summer of love. If they're not looking for romance, they can find a more love for the world and their surroundings. And that's why the photography aspect comes out too, because some might decide, I don't want to be a photographer and capture these moments of the world. So I think that there's, of course, I'm going to hit every three marking point of that. Those who are seeking relationships, it's going to hit them in their face. Be careful though, because some might be impulsive. Beware those impulsive relationships because they could be somewhat also karmic, even though they're not intending to be. They might reflect it. And so it's more about the patterns of your mind that you might be falling into, but don't push it away because you might think it's karmic, but it's not. Let it be impulsive, follow that impulse organically, and it will lead into something nicely. And again, those are relationships, a newfound sexual point of view, and those who aren't looking for relationships just want something new. I feel more travel, more enjoying the environments around you, and taking advantage of such, and getting out more.
I think astrology hits that right on, brother, with Aries too. I mean, Jupiter's gonna be in their third house of ideas, so I feel like they might fall in love with an idea or a concept or
Yeah,
obsess on something.
right,
They have Saturn in the 12th house, so they could meet like a past life. I sort of see like as I hear you talk, it feels like Aries might have like one of those fleeting affairs, two ships passing in the night, kind of
right,
like, a Florence Nightingale kind of thing between a
right,
soldier and a nurse, like just something that was completely unexpected,
right,
but gets them to think differently or see themselves differently
right,
too.
right, right.
It's like they need to see themselves differently. I think they're going to see themselves differently through the eyes of another person, whether that's romantic or not.
That's why the impulsive energy, I think they need to follow that. They might run away from that, but I say go with the impulsive energy. Let it be something that will be working for you. Because I sense they might be fearful usually about this, but I think that, like you said, that impulsive energy might feel karmic, but it might be like you said, past life.
Yeah.
Or just something that just like and captivate them. And so I definitely feel that for Aries for sure. And I guess before that creative, environmental, enjoyment and expression too, for those who are looking for something more like a hobby.
And I'll just end with this with Aries too. If you're in a bad relationship, don't be a hero. just just go ahead and let it go. Like the universe is saying it's on to new. You're probably holding both of each other up at this point.
You're already
So
defeated. You've been defeated. So don't drag yourself through that bridge over to the dumps. Just like get up and just go somewhere else. You're defeated already, and it's okay to accept defeat because you win by accepting defeat because you actually allow yourself to grow. And so
yeah, that's true. And they do sometimes don't want to accept defeat.
right.
All right. Taurus, which is my sign. I'll try to do the best I can with being objective.
You want me to go first on this one?
Yeah, yeah, do. That's perfect. Go
I'll go
first for
first on this
Taurus.
one
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you.
We'll switch around.
I gravitate to a lot of Taurus energy too. I think Taurus energy is, especially with the summer of love. I think that I'm finding a merging of self love with a collective love as well as an individual love. So I really find Taurus understanding what love really means outside of the doer, and the bull in china shop energy of love. I'm gonna love you and just take my love. So I
Yeah.
really feel like you're gonna find the balance, the Taurus energy in the summer of love, and so. I think that, Tauruses will find a slow romance, something that allows them to settle in, and to win their trust over. So I think those looking for dating and romance will find that kind of slow, building type of energy and connection. Because I feel Taurus is being very hesitant this year, extremely hesitant more than ever, with relationships. And I think it's because you have now at a juxtaposition of I've been burnt, but I've been the one fucking it up. So I actually need to like do something about this and really kind of focus on how I'm managing my energy. So that realization goes into the summer. It's like I've done that. I feel good. I feel protective. And let me get my feet wet now. And I feel like that's gonna be wonderful. I think Tauruses might have more than one options this summer. Depending on how active they are in that evolution. Those who
Mm,
are already in relationships, I feel a huge breakthrough in communication, and more so a
mm.
sensitivity in communication. And so I think that's another way that's going to help, evolve, and that love energy again is to that, sensitivity of communication. And, sometimes Tauruses like to talk and not to listen. And so I think you'll be more
Huh?
listeners, less talkers. Yeah. I must be
That's
psychic
what
or something.
you must be just a wee little bit. Yeah,
And
that's
then
true.
and then those who are not looking for relationships, I see more literary connections for Tauruses in the summer. If they're just looking for something additional in their life. So those who are writers get to writing. Those who really want to read that book, read that book. Those who want to maybe express their viewpoints through a blog, do it. So I think that'd be a great time to find a love and expressing yourself through verbiage. A lot of communication shifts with Taurus for me in the summer.
Brilliant. Well, the astrology supports that 100%. We've had Jupiter in our sign, so I think we are changing and growing, and I think we're attracting a different type of personality. So I think we're a little reluctant because what we always our go-to is not what is coming up, is what I'm starting to notice already. There's different types coming in. Saturn in the house of society for Taurus. I feel like we're going to be traveling a lot, seeing the world, introduced, I think, to eccentric types outside
Right.
of our normal type. I think is part of it. So when you were talking about the reluctancy or being a little slow, I think it's because it's going to be foreign to
Right.
us.
Exactly. Yes.
I think, but good, because let me tell you, what we've been
Right.
doing has not been working. Like
Right. Right.
so foreign is a good thing. I also think we're feeling very big. I mean, we're in our best light that we've ever been. For us, so we're getting used to the new us.
Yes.
Jupiter's in our house of money and manifestation, which is Gemini. So what we do is make ideas happen.
Right.
So I totally feel what you're saying
Yeah.
about connecting into a lot of intellectual connections. I think Taurus is going to have a lot of friendships come in. Let me tell you that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
but
feeling a lot of new friends.
the thing is, you guys might find some friends with benefits too. I think you guys will confuse that too at some point because finding
Guilty,
that
guilty.
connection, So I don't know what's about that
Guilty as
area of your
charged.
life.
That's
So
always the case. No, that's just always the case. I'm always like, my whole life is like, friend, or am I supposed to, like, I don't know. Like, I never
but
know.
you might find a balance. You guys might find the balance of that, this summer too. Is realizing, what, maybe this is just a friend. Maybe I don't need to push it romantically, and allowing the romantic connections to take the space. Because then when you do that, you're letting friendship, intimate connections take the space, and then there's no room for romance or real intimacy in the sense. So I
Mm.
really think you guys will be very kind of aware of that and communicate that more effectively. And so it's a good change. The communication aspect really, emphasizes this year in a way that's going to get you what you want in your relationship. So, yeah, it's all positive, of course. I mean, all these evolutions this year are going to be very positive. But again, those resisting it are going to have, again, the flipping of being taken advantage of and then not being heard. So there's also the opposite side of things of those who are being resistant and, not wanting to follow where the trend is going energetically. They're going to have the complete opposite. Feel like
Yeah.
they need to express themselves but can't, and then they're not being heard. So beware if you're not being, going in tune to the rhythm. Now I sound like Gloria Estefan. Tune to the rhythm. Rhythm's gonna
Of the
get you.
night.
Uh,
I will say, I'll just end with Taurus on the idea of open communication. I'm more confident now, and maybe a little bit more, I don't know, more self-caring, but I used to worry about upsetting people. So I withheld a lot of information.
right,
It's not that I was dishonest. I was worried about hurting.
right,
So I would just sort of keep things out, and I kept people guessing, and
right.
that turned out to be. So I do feel like in all my relationships, I'm being a lot more honest now already, or
Transparency.
forthright, not honest, forthright. That's the
Yeah.
better for it.
But
Yeah.
also transparent, because you got
Yes.
when it comes to talking about you guys, I'm gonna go out here, stage left. It's like you guys, shut down, and so like I said, the communication will of course bring more transparency, and then I mean, you guys, I love Taurus energies are so beautiful to me. I love Taurus energies. I always gravitate to Tauruses, and they're just to me very beautiful and so passionate. But I think the passion sometimes misguides the Taurus energy, but I think you're gonna find more of that guidance of the balance of the passion and expression. So I want to be a little longer on that because you're here. fear, but
Well,
yeah.
I wish we could say the same, Aqua. No, I'm kidding. We
We don't
like to
get
roast each other.
offended.
Yeah, no. Okay. Well, I like with you starting out. Why don't you start out? Because you're doing a pure psychic read, and then I'm backing up with
Sure,
astrology.
this way I'm not like pulling the information from fear. Yeah, because again, I'm not very I'm so astrologically handicapped, so it's definitely is blind to me. So who's the next?
Next is Gemini, who will be the
I
benefactors
knew
of
it was gonna be
Jupiter in their
Gemini.
sign.
I had
Yeah.
a feeling it was gonna be Gemini. Um, Gemini is gonna have a difficult time this summer, I feel like. I, I think it's going to be a duality here. I feel like Geminis are going to really find a vulnerability this summer, but
Mm-hmm.
they're going to meet people he's going to ghost them or run away from them. So I feel like it's going to make them emotional in a sense to where they're feeling like, I've kind of done that before. I've kind of like just turned my back on somebody. Now I'm getting the back turned on me. Primarily Gemini men. When I look at Geminis, I see the men and the women completely different in different
Yeah.
life types of Geminis. So I'm more talking about the male energy. So females, make sure you're actually with a confident Gemini. If you're gonna meet a Gemini, make sure they're confident and feel like they progressed. Because then I feel like they'll be on their journey of, that kind of like looking for stability. And so the Gemini women, I think that you're gonna own your stability this time with the summer of love and the summertime. You're gonna be feeling more, I want to be stable. I'm looking for stable relationships, not just in romantic relationships, but within your friendships too. You're gonna be craving that stability. And so the men are going to have a difficult time, understanding that new paradigm, but those who are kind of advanced in their spiritual growth will understand it. Those who are in relationships, there will be communication issues. There might be talks about stepping outside the marriage or doing something unconventional within your
Mm-hmm.
relationships. So that might not be, that's not a bad thing. I think that the openness to the discussion is what's key, not the actual result of it. So sometimes just discussing that will give you more freedom than actually going through with it. So I think that'll be a key within the relationships. And as well as those who are not looking for relationships, I think that there's going to be more of a soul searching for the Geminis collectively in summer as well. So I'm finding a love for not just the self, but the love for, I would say, spirit and the love for, what we call creator, the love of the essence of things is where I feel like the
Mm-hmm.
summer will be for Geminis as a whole if they're not looking for relationships. But that might be true even those who are in or looking for relationships too.
That's really on point. I agree with you on the separation of men and Gemini women. Geminis are just coming out of a faith transit. Jupiter's coming out of their 12th, so I think they have found a faith. They've had to learn some hard lessons of faith. They tend to be a little nervous. I think basically Jupiter's moving in their sign, so they're going to be filled with energy. And I agree. I think that's going to be uncomfortable and make them feel nervous. But at the same time, I think Geminis who are caught in relationships that are unfulfilling are going to feel some of that bravery.
Right.
And they are going to open up and say, hey, why don't we try something a little different? Why don't we
Right.
mix this up a little bit? I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree also that the Gemini men are going to be a little bit more shy out of the gate. I think Gemini women are sort of goddesses that haven't been embraced yet. I
Me
know so
too.
many Gemini women that are just like
Yeah.
these
Amazing. My
amazing
mom's a Gemini.
goddesses.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they really haven't been eaten up. Like
Right.
they're waiting to be heard.
Yeah. They're
Uh
amazing. Gemini
yeah,
women are amazing to me. I love their and so strong and so witty, but so nurturing. And I love Gemini women.
I think they're
Hi,
going to
mom.
Yeah, there you go. He's scoring brownie points for Christmas presents. But like, no, I think Gemini women. So I feel like Gemini women actually might beat the men as far as the summer of love. I think they
Yes,
might find real love.
I
I
agree.
think, I think the Gemini men will be a little gun shy.
Yep,
But
I agree.
But I think the Gemini men are going to grow in their careers.
Yeah,
So I have a sense that they're going to build a lot of camaraderie this summer. They're going to really fall in love with their job. They're going to really fall in
right,
love with their colleagues.
right,
They're going to become buddies with the people they work with. That's
right,
Saturn in the 10th house. I
right.
feel like that's something that's going to happen for them as well. And the other thing too is Gemini's just went through an intimacy transit with Pluto in Capricorn. So the universe is pushing for them to get a lot closer. I don't know if it's going to happen this summer, but they've been a little mental. They need to be,
Right.
I'm talking about in bed. Like I think they've been very intellectual in bed,
Very
very
true.
idealized in bed. And there's other ways to feel good in bed than just the idea of who you're with.
Right. And they get more fantasized about the fantasy behind it when they get with it. It's like shutdown time, So yeah,
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
yeah, their mind gets them all worked up. And I wonder if in bed they're in their mind or on the internet and not with the person they're in front of. So I think they're going to get pushed into being closer than they expected to be by the end of the year.
Right.
And the summer is going to be like the foreplay or the beginning of whatever that is. And
Yeah.
I
And one
agree
thing,
with the
yeah, and
faith. Go
the
ahead.
one thing I want to say with Gemini men too, expect the better. Because I think a lot of times Geminis are more surprised of who they attract. They might be saying,
Yeah,
I've attracted this. Like I'm usually dating lower, so I'm attracted this great energy. So then they get in their head because of that too. I think they tend to attract, I would say, levels that are higher than them sometimes, because they do have that charismatic energy too, and that appeal, especially those air signs, Aquariuses as well. Geminis could really bring Aquarius into their sphere, at least from my experience. So I just think that a lot of times they should allow themselves to understand it's okay that someone is, more attractive than you thought or has more to offer the table.
that's
Don't
true.
let that overshine you, because sometimes they would back away from that. And so this summer they can start allowing that. They can start having, like you said before, just all these interconnected relationships working in balance, where they're not, say, uh, fragmented in their relationships. It feels more unified than fragmented, and relationship here and just breaking up the timing differently. They'll have more, I would say, intimate connections and more meaningful connections versus these little fragmented relationships. So I see an evolution with the men on that too.
That's a
That might
good
be
point.
more 2025 though.
Yeah, I think whatever barrier needs to be broken, and that fragmenting is exactly what keeps them from getting close.
Right.
Is they've kept
Yeah.
everything in little intellectual baskets, and
Right.
and been a
Right.
little stubborn about not changing their mind. They get a little
Right.
stubborn that way. Good conversation on the Geminis. Cancers. What do you pick up on the cancers
Oh, cancers are having a rough time right now.
with relationships?
With relationships and it's overall too. Cancers, I love them. They're a little behind a little bit sometimes
Yep.
when it comes to things, and that's not a bad thing. Because we need to Aquarians need someone to help. As we evolve, we need someone that we can help to evolve. So, but cancers bring so much to the table when it comes to emotional perspectives, that they are the last ones to wake up and realize that. So I think the summer of love for them is going to be chaotic,
Mm-hmm.
unexpected,
Yep.
and very almost like they're pulled in so many different directions in a sense that they can't make up their minds. And so I think that's necessary for them, because it's really forcing how to control their emotions when it comes to interests and romantic interests, and allowing them to be selective. Cancers are good at connecting with one individual and going with it, not saying, I have
Yep.
this cool person, this cool person, this cool person. So they're gonna say, oh my God, I have to really kind of make up my mind here and be logical for a moment about my emotions. So that's gonna be a
Mm.
really good, I would say, transition for cancers who are seeking relationships. Those who are in relationships, unfortunately, I really feel relationships ending in summer actually for
Yep.
cancers.
Mm-hmm.
And really kind of long-term relationships kind of taking the toll that's need to take a toll. So it's almost like I said before that, we've all been kind of in this position of 2024 of ending those relationships. Cancers are kind of still in them. And so the summertime, they're going to get rid of them as we have before previously. So,
Mm.
and I think, that's a good thing. I feel the cancer is having an exhale on this. Like, oh my God, it's done. I feel so good about this. So it's actually going to be a great relief for them in the summertime, those who are in those relationships. Not everybody who's in relationships can experience that, but just being more generalized, because there's so many different variables. We can't address all of that. And then those who are not seeking relationships or not in relationships, I feel like, they're really going to be more with their personality. So those who want to be in television, those who want to be doing a podcast and be seen, do it. It's time to be shown. It's time to show personality. So I
Yeah.
think that can come as so many variables. If you're looking for that promotion, go for it. If you're looking for that, sense of being recognized, get it. So to me, the summertime is great for those cancers who want recognition. Get on it, and show that personality.
Agree. The astrology. So I 100% agree with you, Scott. The astrology agrees as well. First of all, Cancer should have broken up about a year ago. So they're way late.
We love you guys. I love my
They're
cancers
still
so
hanging
much.
on. They're
Yeah.
codependent addicts in that sense. Jupiter's going in their 12th house. So I kind of feel I see it different for Cancer men and Cancer women. For Cancer men, I think they're going to lose their teddy bear. Like Cancer men tend to be moody and hold on to their woman and sort of, and I think those women are going to leave. So I think Cancer men will be left
Right.
I think Cancer women will do the leaving. That's my
Sure.
prediction.
Makes
Like
sense.
that's really kind of where they're at.
Makes
I
sense.
do think Cancer women, I have more view for them because Jupiter's going there 12th. I think they got some past life Romeos that need to wake them up and remind them of how sexy they are.
Sure. Sure.
So
Yeah.
I actually am predicting hot summer fleeting affairs for cancers.
Makes
As my
sense.
which is a past life Roman lover. You forgot about him. You got
Right.
caught up in the narcissist for a few lifetimes. Remember this guy from Rome? He
Right.
wasn't smart, but boy, he was good in bed. I think he's coming back for another round. I think it's
Remember
just to
Joseph
shake him
Mary?
awake. Yeah. It's just to shake them awake. I just think cancer women need to be kind of shaken awake. I
Yeah.
agree. Jupiter just moved out of their house of society. So it is time for them to bloom in the world. It's time for them to find their place in the world. I completely agree. I do predict though that cancers are going to find their groove. There was like a
Yeah.
movie where someone got their groove back. That's
Yeah.
sort of
Stellar.
cancers, I think. I think cancer men will be alone, unfortunately, like not necessarily, but they sort of need, I think cancer men have been putting their emotions on their partners and they have to be left with their emotions
Right.
before they're going to be anything sexy, right?
Sure.
Like they've got to learn how to kind of clean up those puddles on their own
Sure.
and then they're going to be amazing macho.
Right.
Cancer men are very, very macho,
Mhm.
but they've sort of fallen into their in some of their pity party to some
Right.
degree, not all, but some. But I do predict when Pluto goes back to Capricorn in September, there could be a chance. Just when Cancer got their groove back, I wouldn't put it past the ex calls them up and begs
Right.
them back. So
Right.
be careful, Cancer. There will be one more
Yes.
beg back
Right.
where you're tested to fall for it one last time.
Right.
Stay strong.
Right.
We'll be here for you.
True. Very true. And now, and if you're a gay cancer male, you're somewhere in between all that.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, gay cancer men are interesting. They're macho, but they also cook.
Right. Right.
Like they have it
They
all.
also
They kind of
cry and they also leave and pout and yeah, they do this all
yeah,
that.
and they can be moody. Don't let piss them
Yes.
off, and don't let them
And as
drink
a
too
gay
much.
man, I know I've had that experience. So
I know
yeah.
a couple gay cancer men, yeah, and they're like, yeah, and too many drinks goes too far. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so now we're on to the Leos, your opposite sign, and my rising sign. So I'm not exactly objective. Okay, he's already worn out.
Oh, they're so exhausting. Leo men. I love Leo women. We're gonna separate this one too. Um, Let me see, because I get two different things with Leos are all over the place. What I find with Leos in the summer, Leo men particularly, is actually having this arrogance of I want to sow my oats. So I think that there's gonna be a lot of Leo men who are basically looking to have children, gonna looking for their wife in the summer, looking for a wife, looking for
Mm,
that future partner, and wanting to like settle down. So
yeah.
I get this like hunter energy. I gotta find my wife, gotta find my so. I feel a lot of that the confidence in that sense with straight Leo men in the summertime. With Leo women, I find that Leo women is complete opposite than that. Actually
Yeah.
looking for more of a casual relationship and more casual experiences and more out of the box experience and not wanting to be tied down. So if you're not in a relationship, you might be great in a casual relationship or just a sexual relationship and just a primal relationship. It's time for the women to experience that, Leo women. If you're in a relationship already, then I think that again, it's kind of similar to what you said with the other sign. I forgot what sign it was that I read about wanting something out of the box. And
Mm,
so again, stepping outside the norm and I would say if you're in a relationship and you feel like you want to get out of that in the summertime, you might need to find a hobby or something else to divulge that energy into, something creative, because it seems temporary. This kind of indulging of this kind of sexual and primal energy. It seems very temporary. So if
mhm.
you're not in a relationship, it'd be great to form casual relationships and let it out of your system. If you're in a relationship, find another. Don't cheat. Don't have an affair and don't leave the relationship thinking you need to have more in it. Just find another activity that can express that energy. I think again with Leos who are not seeking relationships at all, it feels to me they're going to. Gosh, I feel like they're going to have a decline when it comes to their professional life, but then a boom shortly after. So the summertime seems like a tornado for in a sense for Leos and Leo men, but primarily. But with women, the same thing. They might have that struggle of my career's taken a downturn. All the choices that I've made have rendered the success that I've been thinking. I've been too in my head, too about the facade. I gotta go rebrand. And I think once they do, they'll have a boost again. So I think it's rather important for Leos for this summertime, of really being primal, really being thinking outside the box, but then also understanding that the energy they've been harvesting for up to this point has been more an ego, and they're gonna find more of that spiritually driven part. And when I say ego, I don't mean that those who are Leos are egotistical. I'm saying it could be more thought, more in the mind and less from the heart. And I feel that change coming more into the heart. And I feel like they flip flop like that a lot, but I feel like the summertime will be kind of in that vein for them.
I think you're spot on again, especially the men versus female. So Saturn's in their house of sex and intimacy for Leos.
Mhm.
So I think the Leo men who have been whoring around this whole time, now the sex transit is like, let's get serious, let's get
Right.
intimate, some Barry White. I think
Interesting.
I think the Leo women have been sort of holding out for the love of their life and the man of
Right.
their dreams and their king of kings and their prince charming. And now
Right.
they're like, screw it, he's hot. Like, so I
Right.
think I think Leo women are going to be, the ones in the jungle getting all the meat,
Right.
like sort of on the prowl. So watch out.
No pun
And she might
intended.
spit you out too, by the way, boys.
Right.
So, be careful. You're a play toy, just like a cat plays
Right.
with a toy. I
Right.
think Leo women are going to be sort of playing with their little mouse men and
Right.
having fun. You're spot on also. But I think this is all Pluto and
Stop.
Aquarius is in their house of Mirage. So really what's happening for Leos is they're getting to know themselves a lot better than they
Right.
have.
Right.
And so I think the men who've been prowling need to get deeper, and the women who have not let themselves play and be who they
Right.
are
Right.
need to see these other sides of themselves. So I think you're
Right.
right on with that. With the career note, I think that's also true. I think they've been sort of on their Jupiter's been in their 10th house, so they've been all going after their vision, but I
Right.
think they've been ignoring the customer. I think they're
Right.
out of touch with the customer. I think
Right.
they're like, I'm going to build this amazing kingdom. And it's like,
Right.
did you even do a poll? Are they
Right.
even interested in that color? Like,
Madonna comes to mind on that one. Is she? Isn't she
yes, I would say so. Actually, we were talking about that in the meeting. Yeah, Madonna's a little out of touch on her last
a
tours.
little?
Like, Sonny, you're a little out of touch. So there's a little bit of a wake up. But Jupiter in their
Stop
in
it.
their 11th house does mean
Sorry,
your
guys.
dog's trying to tell you something. Jupiter in their 11th house does mean that they will snap back. This is a temporary. Leos are very good at shining and twinkling. So as soon as they figure out what's not working with their reputation in the world, they will bounce and and have a second coming. So I am
Right.
predicting that Madonna will resurrect, her current moment that
So
we're seeing.
resurrects by retiring.
Maybe, or just shifting. It's like time for a foundation,
Right.
time
Right.
for, you
Right.
own your age and be the wise one in the room
Right. Right.
instead of the hot, sexy material girl, I'm just saying, kind of thing. But even Madonna
Hot,
might find
sexy material
herself,
girl.
yeah, exactly. Even she might find herself on the prowl. Anyone touring with Madonna, be careful.
Right.
Those young dancers are all in
That's
shape. Be
funny.
careful. Yeah. But I do think they're going to turn out okay. So that's excellent. Now let's move on to your rising, the Virgos.
My peeps in the house, overthinkers, brainstorming, pain in the
Overanalyzers.
assholes. Yeah, neurotic. Yeah, I know. Virgos. Let me see. We can be collective, I think, with the Virgo men and women. Excuse me. I think it's kind of very collective on this. I think Virgos are going to they're going to be courted. I think that they're going to meet people that's going to court them. And I feel like the Virgos gonna say, I feel special. What? I don't have to do anything? What? I don't have to pay for the bill? Wait a minute. This is odd. So I think there's gonna be
Yeah.
a lot of surprise in the fact of being courted for both men and women in a sense. So
Yeah.
men who are used to picking up the bill are gonna find an independent woman. Women who are used to kind of being the caretaker are gonna find this very sensitive man. So I think that the Virgo is gonna find that really sense of I'm nurtured now. I'm being nurtured. I can relax. So good summer of time for Virgos in a sense of summer of love, because go on that beach and relax. So that's a wonderful thing. So those who are in relationships are going to feel heard. I feel like they're going to feel like everything they've been saying for a long time has been digested. I feel like a lot of great shifts in the relationships that they might be in to where they are feeling heard. That the amount of time they've invested is actually now rendering for them. They're seeing that grow for them. So I think in their relationships, they're going to say, finally, my hard work's been paying off. This cancer finally woke up, so I think there's gonna be a lot of that great realization for them of where they can just sit back and relax now. And those who are not looking for a relationship or in a relationship, I really find a lot of meditation with Virgos in the summertime. So any type of spiritual awakening or spiritual calling will be manifested or realized, if not already. So I feel like an inner purpose, an inner sensitivity that brings that abundant energy and the energy of relax and calm is going to be manifest for them. So some light workers who maybe want to be light workers who are Virgos will decide to do that in the summertime. Many might even take
Mm.
trips to Sedona and go on a spiritual retreat. So a big spiritual awakening for Virgos too, in that sense. I would say collectively on the board when it comes to the Virgos in the summertime.
I agree completely with what you're saying. For one, I think first of all, Saturn's in their seventh house. So one thing I'm really going to happily tell you, all you Virgos, is you were wrong. You were totally wrong. You're not going to end up an old maid. You're not going to be alone. People don't
Right,
hate you. You're not too
right,
fat. You're totally wrong.
right,
And I get pleasure out of telling you that you're wrong.
right,
I think they're going to be a holy shift. They're going to realize, like, I didn't realize there were romantic men out there. I think for the Virgo men, I didn't realize a woman like that would love me. So
right.
I think you're absolutely right. I do think it'll be a slow burn. The North Node in Aries is pushing them towards intimacy. I think
Hmm.
Virgos have always either seen themselves as too flawed or
Right,
their partners as too flawed,
right,
and that's been a barrier to them really being close.
right,
They think they're close, but that's think. That's
right,
not actual emotional
right,
connection. So I think that the uncomfortable part for Virgos is they're going to get closer to people than they've ever been before. And although they said they've always wanted that, be careful what you ask for. It's going
right,
to be a whole new, self. I can just see them telling me, "I can't believe it. I can't believe it." I think that's part of it. Jupiter and Gemini does say it's time for their career.
yeah,
So I think what's going to be a healthy distraction because the love's going to be so intense that it's what they've been looking for their whole life,
right,
and they can't believe it. They can't believe
right,
it's real because it goes against all their prejudice.
right,
I think that their break from that's going to be their career.
right,
So your idea that light workers will be coming out, I agree. I think a lot of
yeah,
Virgos are finally realizing that they have what it takes. They're finally, rounding up and is giving themselves half full instead of half empty. I think
right,
that's a big shift that's going to happen as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
And they're ready, and I think they believe in themselves now too with where
yeah,
things are. They're learning. One of the things that was blocking Virgo was they were so detailed about what love was.
right,
They really need to put a blindfold on and feel their
right,
ways through it
right,
and stop trying to analyze it because you're not
right,
going to do God's job.
right,
You're not going to pick out what all the features of the Ken doll is going to
right,
be.
right,
It's going to surprise you what you fall in love with,
right,
but then your brilliance will like figure out like, oh, this fits like a glove.
right.
So
Well, God
I think,
doesn't think, God bees. God's a feeling, so God doesn't think. So it's not a God quality to think, right?
yeah, no, exactly. And they tend to overthink. I will say, stay away from the Geminis.
Yes, yes.
Virgos and Geminis are like crazy, codependent, weird, cannot get unglued, especially Gemini men. I would say women, if you fall in love with the Gemini man, be careful. I'm
You
just
just
going to say it.
described your relationship with myself. I'm Aquarius, Virgo rising, and Gemini moon. So you just
Oh, there
described
you
my.
go.
I hate myself, hate myself, love myself.
Here you go, ladies and gentlemen, right here.
Aren't I hot? But fuck, I'm ugly. It's like this weird, huh?
Well, Virgo and Gemini's, I always say to Virgo, like I always when a Virgo comes in, she's like, I've got this man, I can't get over him. He comes to me back. I'm like, hold on, Gemini.
Right,
And they're like, yes, how'd you know? Because
right.
every Virgo has one of those Geminis in their in their
Exactly.
in their pocketbook.
Right,
Particularly, it's
right.
mostly Virgo women with Gemini men. That's all I've noticed. I haven't noticed a
True.
reverse on that one,
True. No, I
actually.
agree with you because Gemini men are have an airy approach that they're very like, I say the drifter energies what Gemini men kind of
Yeah,
give me, you know what I'm saying? So I think Virgos want a piece of that. Like I just want to not care. I just want to just drift off somewhere. So there's an attraction to that opposite. And I think, if,
yeah,
if they're conscious enough to want to learn from that, it can actually be successful if they're, of course, elevated enough to want to learn from that and to evolve in that space. It could balance them out, but they have to be very conscious and spiritually attuned to that type of evolution for it to work, though. And
yeah.
so chances are your average Joe that working, no, not at all.
I know that, yeah, Virgo women want to be listened to, and Gemini men will listen.
Right.
But Virgo women
No,
want Gemini
they'll
men to be
hear.
heard.
They're here. They won't listen. They'll hear
You're
you.
right. And they don't come to the same profound conclusions. They switch
Right.
topics. So Virgos find themselves channel surfing in that
Right.
relationship all the time because the Gemini
100%.
just can't keep a signal. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, on to the Libras. I have a lot to say on Libras, but you go first, friend.
Okay, Libra, 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 Libra. And again, this is complete blind to me. So a lot of these
Yeah,
signs
you're
like I,
doing, by the way, your reads are spot on. I don't want to jinx it, but like,
Yeah, no, right here,
You are
it's gonna
tuned
plummet
into the
now.
galactic.
Here,
Yeah.
here comes a downside. Wah, wah. No, I'm kidding.
No,
Um,
you're not going to go
Libras,
there.
no, for Libras and relationships, for me, it feels structured to me. They're in the summertime. I think they're gonna start realizing how I would say stiff they've been. Kind of similar to Virgos in a sense of they've been thinking their relationships too much through, and kind of like checking the boxes in a sense. Well, they have this, so maybe I'll stay because all these check boxes and all. So I just feel they're gonna kind of like realize how stiff they've been because everybody else around them is not so much. Because I feel like the energy that Libras possess around them is very, very relaxed and loose. So they might be made a spectacle in the summer of how tight they are, and they need to open up and be more, I would say, freeing and more adventurous. So it's going to be realization for them. So I feel like they're going to do that same thing, meet relationships, like I'm not interested. Same thing, I'm not just not interested, and they'll be dating, but they're just not gonna find any interest. And so I think even in those who are in relationships, they're gonna feel like this relationship's kind of boring me a little bit, feel stale and stagnant. So, but a lot of this is because they just thought they had nothing else to think about anymore. And nothing else to
Mm,
weigh, to measure anymore. It's like, yeah, maybe
to
it's not.
manipulate.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. So now it's time to start feeling and being organic now. And so it's going to be a realization for them, and I do see a lot of traveling with Libras too, or at least wanting to start to travel or to getting out of this modality of stiffness. So I think there will
Mm,
be those who are not in a relationship but looking for one will feel an impulse to travel. I'm seeing a lot of water around, so they might want to get to more Caribbean nature because it's a summer and want to be around that kind of aqua vibe in a sense. Definitely wouldn't go to Palm Springs, that's for sure. So I see a lot of that kind of want to get out of that modality and be more adventurous in a sense. So for me, it's more collective, and I think that it's rather simple, but I think that there's not much dynamic either that I'm sensing. So they might not be more to like weigh and measure at that point, and it's really getting outside of themselves. And I think that's summertime is time for them to really realize that I've been too stiff. There's nothing more for me to measure. Why don't I start enjoying?
do you see a difference between the Libra men and women?
I didn't generally, but let me dive deeper and like zoom in more. Um, Yeah, I see the Libra women seem to be more analytical on this and the
Hmm.
measuring for me. The Libra men seem more about like conditional things around, in sense. So that might get in the way of the relationship. So they might be so about job and I got my relationship, got my job here. This is all in balance. And so that's good. And it's like, well, nothing's really going with my career, nothing's going with my relationship. So they might realize things are a little stale and stagnant and they're just stiff and they need more adventure, they might realize. And the women might realize I'm overthinking, like a Virgo. I'm overthinking, trying to measure everything, and so I need to find some sort of release reprieve from this. So it's similar but slightly different in the sense of how they're expressing that for me.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, the South Node is in Libra, so that basically means that their ego is outdated. And I actually see
Right.
this. I think Libras have been a little arrogant, frankly.
Right.
And what's ironic is you have the reputation of being open and fair. And when you are officially open and fair, then arrogance goes unchecked.
Let me
And
interrupt you. I want to interrupt you 1 minute because that's what I mean by like measuring things. Like that's I didn't want to judge, but and throw that out. But it is arrogant to me because like you're measuring this. I got to check these boxes and like, but who are you to kind of set the positions on this? So I want to say like that's ego driven to me. So I just want to concur on that too. But
okay,
what I mean
yeah.
by that, yeah.
And it's further better. I mean, I've seen it with women where it's like, I'll save him. I'll show him
Right.
I'm the best girl for him. And
Right.
it's just like, that's actually very ego. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yes.
and I've seen the Libra men be like, I scored her. I scored. He's like a Scorpio. I've seen
Right.
Libra men acting like Scorpios.
I
Like,
got the job. I got my wife. I got this,
yeah, it's like a contest to get the hottest girl or whatever. And I'm,
Right.
I'm hasty general. I'm being hasty general. I know not all are the same, but I think what it is that they're kind of like cancers. They're kind of in the old world of
Right.
relationships
Yeah.
and their ego is still wired to the old hunt and chase and kind of thing. And so they're sort of being rebooted for the new era, I think.
I
And
agree.
I think here's the other thing. I think they were running after great ideas, not love.
Right.
I think the an analytic when you were saying check boxes, I agree. It was
Yeah.
like he's got this, the house, to this,
Right.
that's like, well, do you love him? Well,
Right.
yeah. It's like,
Right.
what do you mean that's the second thing that comes? It should be the first,
She's
like,
checking for it and he's getting it. Like I got the house, the car, and all of a sudden she's like, "Does he
right,
have all this?" That's the differences
exactly.
between the poles of the genders. It's like, it's
Yeah,
too
I've
stiff.
seen that. But I do think that it's because they're going to actually be work in a way. What Libras do is work out how human relationships work. So
100%.
they are the petri dish. They are going to figure out
Yep.
how it works next. They're going to evolve the culture to the next level of how to
I
relate.
agree.
So they're doing the hard work. And unfortunately, they have to carry the burden. I
Right.
do. Jupiter's in their house of travel, so you're head on that.
Hmm.
Like you're
Hmm.
that they are, I think, going to be doing a lot of traveling,
Hmm.
expanding, thinking outside their box. I
Hmm.
actually think even though they rule relationships, they'll probably be the coolest. Is I agree. They'll have the least amount of love this summer,
Yeah.
official love, but that's because they're redefining what love is. Like it,
Exactly.
it needs new terms. And I think I'm just going to put out there. I predict in 2025 that they're going to find themselves with someone they never imagined they'd be with.
Right. Right.
Like I think they're about to change their entire type,
Paradigm. Yeah, I agree.
male and female. And I think the
Yep.
women are going to be swooped off their feet because they carry the purse, but they actually call the shots.
Right.
So I think they actually are now ready to be swooped up by the cowboy kind of energy,
Right.
which I think they really want. But
Yep.
they've always like attracted these fixer upper men, and I think the men are going to find tough women that call them on their bullshit,
Right.
and it's going to be a whole new day for the Libra
Yeah.
spectrum. So Libra's under construction, I think, as far as love is concerned. I think they're
Well,
going
they're
to
there
love traveling places.
right, and they're there to teach us balance. I mean, that they're going to bring that balance and find the balance in a different way for themselves too. So, again, this is definitely not a bashing on Libras. It's we admire that actually, and
Yep.
to me, it's a reflection that they are go-getters. It's a reflection that they do get things accomplished. It's a reflection that they do, manifest their desires a lot quickly and easier than others. So that's a speaking in favor of them. But we definitely want to see them in that proper balance and find the heart and soul that other signs have. And
Yeah,
so some of us
absolutely.
have to work on those, conditional manifestations as they mastered. But yeah, I think it's still great for them because, they're going to do what they want to do regardless. So even if the soul tells them to move on, they'll do it and feel good about it. So either way, I feel like they'll feel good in the process. Either way.
Agreed. And I think with the world going to hell, Libras are going to be out there doing diplomacy stuff. So they're going to be
Right.
busy in work. I think they're going to be
Yes,
really busy in their work and what
I
they
agree.
do. Yeah. All right. The Scorpios.
I mean, I have to agree. It's in the stars, right?
No, you don't have to agree. You're an Aquarius. You're contrary.
I'm like, well, I'll contest the stars. We don't know about that one. Um,
Yeah.
Let me see about Scorpios. Scorpios. I'm going to start more general. I think overall, Scorpio's going to want a sense of family. I really feel like they're going to want to either connect with family relationships or, if not, build a family. There's going to be a lot of sensitivity in Scorpios during the summertime, I feel like.
Mm,
And where they're going to be like, you know what? I've isolated myself. If they were in isolation, it's time for me to I want to connect with older friends, revisit older relationships, past relationships. So I feel like overall, there's going to be a sense of reconnection, and really kind of diving into wanting more connection. So if you're looking for a relationship, you're going to stumble a little bit, Scorpios. You're going to be a little kind of like, I kind of went to the wrong guy and got, woke up with, with my pants down and wine in my hand. Like, what happened in that? You're going to be bad at connecting with the right circumstances. And it might get you into trouble. So be careful. So, but go with that one to be expressive. Go with that need of one to be connecting and getting out of isolation. And so when you do, you're not going to get it right away, but just be conscious that you are testing your limits, but wanting connection and do it in a balanced way. Because I think you guys can go extreme connected and extreme isolate.
yeah.
So make sure you're aware of that when you start feeling this impulse for connection. I am finding a lot of, I would say, amending of relationships for Scorpios during the summer. So either relationships that have disconnected because of communication problems or
Mm,
just I see a lot of mending of relationships too. So if you're in a relationship, if it's having a downturn, it's gonna click and resolve and to be a better understanding because you're communicating, you're opening up, you're wanting to connect. So that's why it's resolving. And those two are not interested in relationships in that sense. I feel like, a visual expression is going to come to, a manifestation. Either if you want to be interior designer, you're going to go for interior design. You want to do makeup, cosmetology school, whatever you want. I think there's going to be some sort of visual need or visual expression, even if it is that you just want to redo your home of that some sort. So a lot of
mm,
visual creativity and tapping into the aesthetics and presentation, I feel like is going to resurrect during the summertime for those not interested in relationships.
brilliant. I agree. So Saturn and Pisces for them is their heart of their inner child. So the tenderness is right on.
Mhm.
They're connected. Scorpios are all wounded.
Right.
And then I think they sort of kind of shifted intimacy into kink.
Right.
and into sort of fetish kind of stuff.
Right.
And as a result, like they weren't really like juicy, intimate, like I need you, baby, kind of thing.
Right.
It was more like smack them, you know,
I
like
woke up in a bar with blood on my ass. Like, what happened? Like, you know what I mean? So sorry to be so
right.
explicit. It's a line from a film. So sorry, guys. But yeah, just very like you got yourself in a very bad, kinky situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was safe intimacy for them, and I think what's happening is they're getting really tender. The marshmallow side of them is coming out of their heart.
Right.
They're wanting closeness. I think they're starting to believe that people won't leave them
Right.
or cheat on them or betray them, which is
Right.
what their karma was because Pluto's in Scorpio in the 80s. So just about every Scorpio has at least one betrayal on the books that
Right.
has made them sort of stand back and not let themselves get really close,
Right.
like on a deeper level. So I agree with you. I also feel that that tenderness is going to evolve into a lot of healing where they had said never, they will never talk to that person again, or they will never, they sort of cut, they're all about ghosting, cutting off the arm,
Right.
carterizing it. Like when they say no, they say no. But I agree with you. And the part of you saying about them being artistic, I agree. I think with Saturn in the fifth house, they're finding their artistic
Right.
expression. They're
Exactly.
they're finding their tender side. And the universe with Jupiter and Gemini is pulling them into intimacy. So
Yeah.
I think for them, the key word is intimacy for the first time instead of sex. Not that they haven't been intimate, but they dip in and they get out. It's like
Right.
the cat fair's on the dresser. I'll see you
Right.
next week, kind
Right.
of.
Right.
So I think we're gonna see a
$20. Is
softer,
that all I'm
gentler.
worth? 20 bucks. Thanks, Scorpio. Yeah.
But I do think that they are the peace artists. I think that this new softer version of them is going to be peacekeepers on
I love
Earth.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
whereas
it.
before they were the ones willing to wage hell, and now I think they're going to negotiate at all costs to prevent anything bad from happening.
I
So I
agree.
think we're going to see a lot of great from for Scorpios. Good, they're ready to have really good relationships too.
I agree.
I think their relationships. I think Scorpios are going to make the relationships they have better
Right.
versus
Right.
whereas before they would cut. I think this is one of the first times that they'll stay.
Right. Yeah. It's like I said, like if they're in a relationship, they're gonna like resolve it was going down tick, they're gonna resolve it. And because they're wanting to connect now. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Okay, awesome. We're on the same page, brother. Sagittarians.
Sages. Let me see. I do I have to split the genders here? I kind of feel like I have to. Um, Sag men. Oh yeah, yeah. I feel like the Sages are going to kind of be, snooping around. They're going to be, there's a lot of suspicion coming from them, I feel like in summertime. I feel like they're also coming out of an isolated period or ended a long-term relationship and kind of back on the mark. I get that energy of newness for some reason.
Mm,
Like putting their fingers in their toes in the pool again. And so I feel like there's gonna be like a fresh start for Sagittarius when it comes to
mm,
relationships, opening up again. Maybe you're dating now again, and you've been closed off to dating for some time. But I feel like there's this childlike quality that's coming out from them too, saying, you know what, I kind of like want to have that kind of that high school dating type of experience again. I want to feel young again.
mhm,
So I feel like there's gonna be
mm,
that adventurous, youthful energy for the summertime with Sages, especially men and actually men and women too. I just find men being more suspicious this summer though too, as they're kind of looking around into newer environments. It feels like a good release for me. And so I think that if there's when they're single, they're gonna meet, different personalities and then interview them and have some cuddle sessions and then go with another cuddle session here. The women will kind of like drag out a dating experience a little more. And so, but it'll be pleasurable in a sense. If they're in a relationship, and this is more collective too, I feel like they're going to want to release some sort of secret information or something about them that's been hidden. So there might be some talk about their past that might resurface. Say, you know what? I never told you this before. I've been with you 20 years, but I'm a man, right? So they might release something that's really like 20 years. You didn't tell me this? Just kidding. But they might reveal something that they've been holding for. So I see a lot of like expression in that sense too for those in relationships to reveal and to get deeper in a sense and allowing us to be more transparent too, if they're in a relationship. Those who are not in relationship, I'm sensing like more of like if you're thinking about building a home or even moving, something of that construct will be kind of more of the summertime. So moving will be a great time in the summertime to find the house that you love. If you want to build a house, like I said before, building would be great. So a lot more restructuring going on for Sages in the summertime.
mm. Yeah, well, Jupiter and Gemini for Sag is the house of relationships and marriage. So I think the universe is pushing them towards a better long-term relationship setting. But the North Node in Aries says that it's time to go after their heart again. So when you said they want to be young again and go back to their teenage life, I completely concur. I think that's
Mhm.
really true. I actually feel like it's funny. The Sag men, I think, have been really focused on money and
Mhm.
doing well and
Right.
succeeding. And so I think Sag men have sort of kept things very shallow or not really super engaged. Like
Right.
they've been so like out at work and doing things and being responsible with Pluto in the second house. So they're just now going, huh, maybe I want someone I can grow old with. So I think for the first time, Sag men are starting to think more long term.
Right.
Sag women, I think, have been super responsible, like doing all their mama duties or their whatever duties. And I think they're going to be slower, like you said. I think they want to be
Right.
friends first. I agree, but they really have like this very passionate romantic side of them
Right.
that I don't think they've allowed themselves to really ever express.
Right.
Like they, they know that they are super cheesy, but only for a moment.
Right.
Like then they're sort of back to work, I think.
Right.
But I do think that they are sort of on the countdown to finding true love. I think, I think if Sages are in a relationship that is not sparking them, it's going to probably end this summer, or you're going to realize it needs to end. You're going to
Right.
realize it's over.
Right.
And I think Sages are going to start to realize, like, okay, I'm starting to feel like they're starting to open up to relationships for the
Right.
first time,
Yep.
change priorities, and
Yeah.
remember what their heart really wants. I think Sages, the South Node for them is in the house of society. So Sages have done a lot of escaping from their friends.
Right.
And I think that's actually a part, like with everyone and their friends all hooking up now and starting to
Right.
settle in relationships, they're going to sort of be like, maybe I should go home on time and not be the last one at the party. So I think there's this sort of realization that's not time to grow. It's funny, they want their inner child to come out, but in
Right.
a way, it's also time to be a grown up,
Right.
and start to like and really look for a more of a longer term solution. And
Yep.
maybe you see that you're aging, and it's just like better cash in now while you can, kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I feel.
Very
Yeah.
much so, yeah, and not micromanaging your relationships either. Well, this one's for the cuddle session, this one's for this, and really understanding unification and wanting something more stable, and consistent, and really feeling that passion and love again. So, yeah, it's to me, it's a great time for them to make. And again, that structuring. So you said marriage. I felt like structuring, building a home, starting a home, that whole foundational structural energy. So, yeah, I
Yes.
think that'd be a great time for them to make a great realization of that seriousness of the future, for
You
sure.
hit it on the head. Saturn's in their fourth house. So Sages have left home at age 15. Like,
Yeah.
and they never turn back. And
Right.
actually, you hit it on the head. I think they're wanting cozy home. They're wanting cozy by the fire,
Right.
Netflix night.
Right.
They've always been life on the town, and now I think they're finally wanting to come home and
Yeah.
relax.
Right.
So they're
100%.
wanting cozy love if there's
Yep.
love. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, agreed. All right, now we're on to we got three left here, brother, and these are all rocking Capricorns. Hey, Cappies.
Capricorns. Ooh, Caps. This is gonna be a great year for Capricorns. Summer primarily. Um, those who are single, I see you still being single. Um, but the thing is, I don't see you guys wanting relationships, and those are single. I feel like you're just gonna be like a new, I would say, newfound confidence in the self that says, I'm actually going to focus on career, actually. So I think Summer of Love for Capricorns will be career focused, actually, and getting that new idea off the ground. The one that's been festering, you've been saying, I'm going to get this off the ground, this new idea off the ground. I've been dusting it off, and I say, no, goddamn, I'm doing it. It's actually coming to fruition. I'm pushing it. So I get a lot of confidence in Capricorns in the summer, and those
Mm.
are single. So not really wanting relationships, almost like scoffing at people who are dating in relationships. Ugh, please, that's not my thing. And so I think they'll probably like get, what do you call puking on that? But those are in relationships. They might take a step back from heavy relationships, any type of emotionally draining relationships. They might run or escape from those type of relationships if they're heavy. Or if a relationship is wanting too much, they're going to want to separate from that relationship. Or if a relationship as well, they're going to want to have their partner to be supportive of their new endeavor. So the love for me in Capricorns is love and a new interest is when it comes to career, or even a project or some sort of hobby that they've been wanting to do. And those not interested in career, the same message is for them too. And I think this goes across the spectrum, male and female. The differences, though, I would say with the male and female is the men feel more charged. I would say up. The women Capricorns feel more, I would say, allowing, right? And so I think that there's going to be a nice balance between the Capricorns in the summertime when it comes to their individual self, their individual, I would say, foundation, and either the men will be go-getting and the women will be allowing. And so I actually like this summertime for them because I think it's going to be a very powerful self-identifying year for Capricorns.
Mm, well said. The astrology says the same. For Capricorn men, I think their first love is always success
Right.
and always will be. They're actually in a love transit, but I think they want to be successful because until they're
Right.
successful, they just can't come home. Like they want to come home from to their love after a successful day, feeling
Right.
like the man. They're very 1950s kind of male energy,
Right.
and and they're getting into the new age of things. So I think they're going to be in love with work, in love with their
Yep.
career. I agree with you,
Hmm.
but I do think love is coming around the corner for them once they get some success under their belt.
100%.
The Capricorn women, I think, are wanting true love. And from what I'm seeing, they're in a bit of a conundrum
Yeah.
because men are becoming softer and more effeminate, and that's making them come off as more masculine. So,
Right.
hence, Capricorn women are actually having a hard time, I think, redefining themselves in love because they tend to be the stronger one in the
Right.
relationship with the men that are showing up, and they're not quite sure what to do with that.
Right.
And I think maybe in some regards, it's probably calling for them to find their softer sides
Right.
and and
Allow.
yeah, and allow. Yeah, that's probably the big key for Capricorns is the idea of co-creation. I think that
Right.
they're learning how to share the ball with the
Right.
universe, like because they're usually leading the ball, leading the discussion.
No pun
They're learning.
intended.
Yeah, yeah,
Drop those balls, ladies.
yeah, exactly. I also think that Capricorns are finding their a new way of thinking. So I
Yeah.
think it's the gentler is about gentler thinking,
Right.
and being more compassionate and less critical to themselves,
Right.
which then allows them to be less critical of others.
Fathers. Yep.
If anything, they're judging people out the door
Yeah.
probably too quickly.
Sure.
And they're going to have to just sort of like the more they accept themselves, the more they'll find someone who they can accept
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
is what's
Totally.
happening with them. Yeah.
And and I didn't realize that dichotomy between Capricorns till now. I'm like, wow, women's are actually more that dominant. Men are a little more on the back side. So it's interesting to see them kind of finding that balance within themselves that way. So that's why I kind of feel like it's gonna be a good year for Capricorns overall, actually, in that sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love it.
It'll be good to see. And
Yeah.
Pluto's in their second house, so they're going to end up owning all the new industries and
Hmm.
be the first one to be in green energy and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So I think for the men, go for it.
Hmm.
Okay, that brings us to the sign you may not be objective on, Aquarius.
Ha!
You will be.
Well, I'm good at being objective, I guess, because I'm overly critical thanks to my Virgo. So, Aquariuses, this summer, I think you're gonna find love. I think summertime for Aquarius is very much love induced. It
Mm,
does, and those who are single or really find the passion for love in that sense when it comes to people, and intimacy. Not we're good at, Aquarians are good at the love on the projects, love of the world, but I think love of intimacy is going to resurrect this summer. So it's going to be very romantic, I would say, for Aquarians
mm,
in the summer with those who are seeking it. Those who are in relationships is going to heighten, but at the same time, those who are not really in love is going to break away very, very abruptly. So that's the kind of the dichotomy there, on that sense. But even other relationships that are unconditional will also work out and grow and put in the proper place if it's loving, truly love. So a very good intimate spark, a very good intimate, almost like Aquarians receiving the love and allowing that receptivity of love is going to be a very great expression so they can actually express it in return effectively. So I think Aquarians are going to find a balance, actually, believe it or not, which hearing this scares me a little bit. Um, and
with your
so
webcam on you.
And so those who are not really seeking relationships, I do find some travel with Aquarians a lot more and getting out of their comfort zone actually. And a lot of things will be manifesting for Aquarians this year that will be taking them out of their norm.
Yeah.
A lot of them, and I feel like Aquarians might even be moving now, if and not during the summertime. There's gonna be some moving. I think a lot of Aquarians will be moving before summer. I just feel like a shift,
Relocating.
relocating, finding a new home, the luxury aspect, I think, and something I've been actually tapping into, like increasing the luxury aspects of things. So I feel like that's also a collective desire for the Aquarians too for this summer, and really kind of putting themselves first. And so I think others will be putting themselves first too. So yeah, as far as those creatively in Aquarius not seeking relationships, I think a lot of the artistic expressions will be manifested. Music. I'm a musician, but I'm not saying because I'm a musician. I feel there are a lot of musicians who are Aquarians and writers and film producers and makers. I think there's a lot of that. And I don't mean to generalize. I'm really intuitively feeling that a lot of them will get these stories told. So for me, it's about getting stories told and getting their point of view to be actually receptive by the masses and owning it and being proud of it. So that's for those. And I think that can go again with those who are seeking and not seeking relationships. That would be kind of a collective with Aquarius. So interesting to read my own sign and seeing things I didn't expect, but also good confirmation for me.
Good affirmation. I
Affirmation.
concur. Yeah, well, Pluto in their sign, they're finally, I think, feeling strong with boundaries for the first time, like with themselves. I think that's always been the problem. I think they've just ghosted and disappeared or avoided or and now that they have the power of boundaries to say no and not worry about it, it opens up a whole new world.
Right.
Black Moon Lilith is in Virgo, which is their eighth house. So they're facing fears of intimacy right now.
Yeah.
I think Aquarius has been afraid of being taken over by their lovers,
Mhm.
being smothered, being trapped. These are like
Mhm.
some of their classic fears that they have, and those
Right.
fears are drying up now. I think they're starting to
Right.
feel like
They
because
are.
of the boundary stuff, they realize they can just say no, or they can just put up front what their boundaries are
Right.
and see if the person stays or not. But you're right on. Jupiter in Gemini is their house of love.
Mhm.
So this is a once every 12-year transit for Aquariuses to first fall in love with themselves, which is the
Right.
biggie you didn't mention. I think that's what's really happening under the
Oh, I
scenes.
did. I
Okay.
mentioned, yeah, I
Okay.
mentioned love for the self too, so you can express it, be able to express it. So yeah, I did.
Okay, fair enough. I might have
Yeah.
spaced out there or blocked it in my own denial.
It's
I
okay.
have
I talk a
Aquarius in
lot.
the seventh house. So I do think that they're going to fall in love with themselves. And I also think that's their expression for art. I agree. Saturn and Pisces in their second house is it's time for them to get out there and start making money with what they do. So I
Right.
think they're feeling love for themselves. They're feeling loved for the universe.
Right.
And they're starting to open up to like closeness and tenderness. You know,
Yes.
it's weird with Pluto and Aquarius. We're seeing a push for Leos to act a little bit more like Aquarians and Aquarians to act a little bit more like Leos. We're seeing
Leos.
kind of
Yep.
this push for this opposite where the
Yes.
Aquas are getting sappy and the Leos are sort of straightening up in their chair a little bit,
Right. Right.
which is
True.
kind of interesting.
Very true. Yeah.
So we'll see if I'm very curious. I've never seen an Aquarius in love. Well, either because they hid it, they're very, formal and didn't share it, not because it wasn't happening, but because it just wasn't something you saw in public. I don't think I've ever seen an Aquarius kiss somebody. I'll have to think about it. Not even Jennifer Aniston, for instance. Like, right? Like, have you seen a love scene with her? Nope.
No.
Recently,
Well,
actually, in
yeah,
her
kind
last
of. I
series.
mean,
A
yeah, I
little
think
bit. I
so.
mean, even
We
with
we
Brad
give we
Pitt, it's
give pieces of it. We give little here. We'll show a little bit, but not too much. We'll show your nipple, not the full breast, right? So,
right,
um,
exactly. There'll be a hint
so
of it.
a hint of
Well,
it.
I think we're going to see a lot more of it. I think we're going to see a lot more nipples. I think we're going to see a lot. I think we're going to see a lot. I think we're going to see Jennifer Aniston. Actually, in her last series, she's starting to open up and show her side. Like she was married to Brad Pitt, and
Right,
they look like friends walking down together.
right.
I never saw them as touchy, kissy, huggy. But I think we're going to see that juicy Aquarius. So this, I think, will be. I will say for Aquarius, is this might be literally a summer of love,
Yeah,
and I think that they're not really used to letting love take over their life. So there's a
right.
lot of getting used to that.
Yeah,
um, I don't know if it'll last, right, long term per se, because like some Aquariuses might need to just get in the pool, swim
right.
around a bit, and see what it feels like. But definitely by 2025, I think they're going to know where they are when it comes to love for
I
sure.
agree. I can see that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So yay for the Aquariuses. I'd say they're one of the hottest tickets this summer, and probably very good for Gemini's. By the Gemini and Aquas would do pretty well. I would just
Yeah,
put it up there.
I agree. That's always kind of a traditional match for Gemini's and Aquarians.
Yeah, well, yeah, and but now they're both sort of timed for it. It's timing for both of them, I would
Right,
say.
right.
They're both timed. And stay away from the Virgos, Geminis. Okay.
What do you think about like Aquarius and Sagittarius in that sense too?
That's interesting. Do I see those a lot? Yeah, I see those. I've always seen them like buddy. To me, they're like similar characters in
I'm
the
saying in the
party.
shift. I'm saying in the summertime. What do you think is the change you see in the summertime? You know what I'm saying? What do you see about like that? Do you think that would be potential for Aquarius and a Sag in the summertime?
I would have to get like a National Geographic camera and film it. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. I'm totally willing to do that study. So if you know, theoretically they go well together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, their energy sextile, so they're kind of they've always been sort of friends, and it's sort of like friends that slept together.
Yeah.
That's how I put
Exactly.
it. It's like suddenly two friends are. It's sort of like a when Harry met Sally situation.
Right.
I think that would be Sag and Aquarius. Like
Right.
it could work, yeah, but
I only reference that 'cause I'm like it seems like summertime they're all Aquarius, Geminis, and Sages are all like kind of looking for that seriousness, right? So I wondered like how that would pan out if that would even work because that similarity. It might work and then become a disaster, but I just you never know.
it'll be cordial. There'll be no hard words as they say goodbye forever.
Maybe a handshake. Yeah.
Yeah, they can have crazy wild sex and then shake and say that was fun. Nice to meet you. Like kind of thing.
Good job.
They're both adults about these types of things. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it's not their first rodeo
You
for
mean
sure.
transactional? That's what you really mean. They're very
It can
transactional
be.
about these
It
things.
can be, but with
Yeah.
a cultural understanding of one another. Like,
Right. Yeah.
they're both kind of cultural icons. They usually take each a corner. If you go to a party, there's like an aqua in that corner with a circle, and
Right.
there's like a sag in that corner with that circle. Usually those corners don't talk.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
again, it'd be fascinating. Yeah, it'd be
True.
fascinating to see.
Yeah.
It's a new era. We never
I
know.
I feel like because something within me feels like it's like the dynamics you wouldn't think that would collide. I see colliding for some reason. I see a lot of those boundaries being broken. That's why I question that because I feel like a lot of like unexpected connections will start colliding. You know what I'm saying? And that
Gotcha.
makes sense if the species is evolving. Then of course we got to kind of evolve and find different aspects and corners of our species that we can connect with and understand. I would say so. I think
Yeah.
actually my prediction is there'll be a lot of those colliding of different, energies in that sense and weird compatibilities, connecting that you wouldn't expect. I think there'll be a period of that.
I don't disagree. I mean, with Pluto and Aquarius, it's anything goes.
Right. Woo woo.
And I think we have major gender fluidity right now. We have
Yeah.
major personality fluidity. It's like, really, you're right. We're probably about to see stuff we never imagined. We're definitely
Right.
breaking all of our classic stereotypes,
Right.
100%. It's
Sure.
time to rewrite the books.
Agreed.
All right. And then our final, but never least, is the Pisces, our little fishies. What do you see? Do you see a lot of little guppies swimming around? What do you see?
Let me see, let me see about that. It's actually funny. I'm going to split this one between Pisces women's and women's. I sound four. Pisces women and men. It's funny you say little species when I do feel like women are going to want childbirth. I feel like the
Interesting.
Pisces women might want to either decide they want children, have a child, or realize they do want a child, or get pregnant. So I feel a lot of that with the Pisces women.
Interesting.
With men, I feel again similar to I forgot what sign I read that I said this kind of maybe wanting to settle down and sow the oats a little bit more. I do feel a hesitation with this though. Still kind of career driven in a sense, but then still trying to find the balance of that. So I feel like there's going to be an openness with them that they're going to want to kind of come in and I would say be more lucid. I would say in their relationships and not having any type of parameters, no expectations. Let me just figure it out. Let me just try it. I'm just going to try
Mhm.
this for a little bit. That's with the men. With the women, again, really wanting to have any type of a new childbirth, giving birth to something new, even an idea. So we can think of that figuratively speaking. So there's going to be evolution. The men seem to be going a little slower on it for me, as far as getting to relationships, but
It's
wanting to get
always the
out of
case.
themselves. Is it okay? I'm not so familiar with
That's what
Pisces.
we call a Pisces.
Okay, I'm not so familiar with Pisces. So, but I
No, I'm
feel like with the
teasing.
men, but I feel them in the summertime, like really like just kind of like almost like come out of nowhere, and just like they might call that, that ex up, say, "What's going on?" That booty call. It's been like 6 years. What's up? It's so cavalier. And so I feel like they're gonna want to start getting their feet wet too when it comes to being intimate, even casual relationships. Those who are in relationships, I really feel like there's going to be I find the Pisces, getting very needy and those who are in relationships and saying, I kind of need more attention. I'm needing more. I'm not getting happy. I'm not satisfied. I need more. And so they're going to realize that the structure that around them and how they've been somewhat conditional in a sense that they're starting to realize they've blocked themselves off in a sense. And so there's gonna be realization in relationships to I do want more. I do want to elevate this. And then realize they're the ones that blocked it. So
Mm.
and I do thought across the board with the male and the female in a sense too. But I think it's a time for them collectively to really understand, the long-term effects of how they've been engaging with the relationships. And because I feel like a lot of times too, they might isolate, then be, again, I'm open, then I'm isolated again, then I'm open. So I get this back and forth wobble with them. And I feel like they're going to start realizing they're going to take more control over when they want to be in those type of paradigms. So it's a realization of that balance and also want to understand more of the future. I don't feel like they'll plant their feet in the future, but the desire for such. And those who are trying to get pregnant in the Pisces sign for the females, I feel like that would be a time where it happens, or the desire for such.
Mm.
So
Well, I'd say the
reproduction.
astrology's, yeah, the astrology's online. I mean, Black Moon, Lilith, and Virgo for them, they are facing fears around relationships right now. So those who are in relationships, I think, are working out their demons through their relationships and their shadow right now in a
Right,
big way. Um, I think Saturn in their sign means they're sort of growing up and they're ending a lot of their own karma. With Pluto in their 12th house. So I do think Pisces always came here to clear up a lot of garbage, a lot of spiritual baggage. But Pluto in the 12th, like the one they were always meant to be with, is probably around the corner, or not too far away.
sure.
The Pisces women, I see it. Jupiter and Gemini is the house of home and family. So
Mhm.
Pisces are wanting a new fishbowl.
Yeah,
So that is either your own little guppies or your grand guppies, or or settling
yeah,
down or moving in or shacking
right,
up. So I do think they are home building 100%. That's 100%, I think, ideal. Also repairing their relationship to their own parents, because a lot of Pisces, left home early and, were kind of rebels or
right.
whatnot. It's funny what you say about Pisces, man. I find that they're always sort of beating around the bush. I think
Hmm.
if you find yourself, two ships passing in the night, one of them is usually a Pisces. So I think that's sort of common, you know what I mean? But I feel, I feel like all Pisces are finding their real role. Like it's time for them. This is the end of the age of Pisces.
Right,
They are like the walking microcosm of that whole experiment of Earth. And so there's this final presentation with Pluto having gone through their 11th house. This is final presentation of like they're going to come out and be something now.
right.
And I think part of that will be in spiritually, probably not what sort of, unconventional relationships too. They're really good at unconventional relationships. They can
Yeah.
marry the person that other people can't marry and
Well, but
whatnot.
that's because they're good at the disappearing act. They're good at like coming and coming out too and disappearing. They're really good at that too, I would say. So, those conditional relationships do benefit them too in that sense.
Oh yeah. Well, and they're always half in and half out. Like I
Right,
always joke, like Pisces are always walking out the door while they're walking in the door. It's the
right,
fish going both ways. Like
right.
I think that I wonder if they'll evolve past that. I mean, Jupiter and Cancer will be when they really fall in love,
Yeah,
which is next year. So I
that
think
makes sense.
they're kind of playing house this year, maybe.
Right.
And
Like
the
they're getting
ones
their
who
feet
are,
wet, but not putting their feet all the way in the sand in a sense.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
they're
it's that
keeping an eye on the
desire.
door on the exit the whole
Right.
time. Like they're not quite sure. And the ones who are in relationships, they're working out their demons right now. And then when Jupiter goes into Cancer, they're going to fall deep, madly in love if that person stuck through them with them in the relationship when they were going through that stuff too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
yeah, so it's good times. All right. Well, that was phenomenal, man. I would chit chat with you more, but we did almost 2 hours together, which we can do
Wow.
easily. I know. Isn't that crazy? 20 more minutes to be 2 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I hope there's people still here.
There are people are loving it. Yeah. Shout out to everyone who's here. We appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. Thank you for coming on, man. We're gonna
Love
release
it.
these all as individuals. You all
Yes.
check out how do we get your music? You're a very good musician. So
Thank
how do
you.
we find your music, bro?
Yeah, I get Scott Cruz, Cruz. It's on YouTube. Sometimes you type in my name, the music banner comes up. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why that's happening. So here on Apple Music, Scott Cruz, same thing. Spotify, of course, Apple, Amazon as well. People do Amazon Music, and
Huh.
I write, produce, play all my music. So everything you hear is all done by myself.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I'm enjoying. Just new song has come alive, and it's really kind of resurrecting culture. That's the song, what it's really kind of about there, and so. It's time to come alive in 2024, baby.
I love it. I think music is going to play such a huge part of the new era. So you've got your thumb on the pulse in both ways. And he's a brilliant psychic. He is for hire for
Thank you.
sessions. ScottCruzPM.com. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
For to
I had to
book
think.
him
I'm
for
like, is
session.
it? Because I never type it. I'm like, yeah, Scott Cruz PM.
Scott Cruz PM,
Yes,
which is psychic medium. That's the PM is. And
yes,
then Thursday nights on YouTube, he's live like this. I mean, a lot of our subscribers watch you on Thursdays and me on
yeah.
Fridays. So we're building this like cross
I love it.
traffic thing. So if you want to Go easy. Does like one question for 25, two for 35. And actually he sells out fast. So get the early instead of the money because it's hard to actually get a ticket these days. He's so popular. Thank you, Scott. We love you. We appreciate
I'm
you, dude.
developing. I would say popular yet developing. I'm fresh still.
Oh,
So
you're sold out in the first 20 minutes. If you don't put your ticket in, you won't have time to get him. He's that big. Yeah. So, all right, brother. We'll stay backstage. Let's chat for a minute afterwards. And thank you for coming on.
I
We love
appreciate
you.
it. Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Bye. See your story, family.
It's serious.